welcome to episode 87 of Coffee and Co-Read, your source for all things literary with Catherine
and Kristen, where we believe there's nothing better than a hot coffee and an awesome book. Join us for our virtual book club where we take one book a month and dive into all the drama, adventure, and romance we can find. Hi, Catherine.
Hey, Kristen.
So, it is our last week of October. So,
Wild. Oh my god. Sorry, but we're so close. We're fucking so close to the second book.
I know. So close.
I can't.
November 7th. So, we are just a short, I'd say, week and a half away.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be incredible.
I cannot wait.
So besides that, so for our last day of our spooky month, we're going to talk about supernatural things because both of us are very into, not like real life, but like we're both very into the genre of like supernatural. So like all things like creepy,
supernatural.
Yes. Yes, but I didn't want to say it the third time.
I understand.
So all things,
including the show,
yes,
which we both have tattoos for.
But like all things magic and extra, like weird and cool.
As you've probably known if you've listened to this podcast for half a second, we're very into fantasy, and we've been into fantasy
long time.
The whole time that we've read.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, that's what we read.
Yeah.
Fantasy.
Yeah. So, we thought for this last spooky not would you rather this week, but for our last spooky topic, what sort of supernatural being would you pick to be? So, what supernatural being do you want to be?
This is a hard one because I know, don't look at me like that. But it's a hard one because the teenage emo side of me obviously is going to pick vampire.
Of course.
But the rest of me is like, fucking Fae. Fae is where it's at.
Yeah, that's true. No, you have a point.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's so hard. Yeah. But I think for the integrity of my soul, as dark as it is, I'm joking, I need to pick vampire.
So, like, we're encompassing, like, all things magic-y in this. So, like, it could be anything. So, I guess I would sort of go similar. My only issue, here's my query. Okay. Mm-hmm. Both of the things that you mentioned are considered immortal by our standards, right?
Yeah.
Here's my question for you. So, I agree. If I could be Fae, 100% yes, I'd be Fae.
Yeah.
Right? Guaranteed.
But also, I'd have to be in the Fae world. I don't want to live in this world as an immortal.
Well, but
is that what you're getting at?
Well, so kind of. So, like, the issue is, both of those, like, I'm sure we can tell from fiction and from media, living an immortal life is a very lonely existence. So, at least if you're a vampire, you have the ability to transform people into vampires so that you're not alone.
Yes.
Fae, you don't really have that. So, like, if you're Fae, you're sort of up the creek alone without any ability to, like, have somebody be with you forever.
True. But I kind of feel like most of the Fae things we read, they have their own world. So, like, are we including that in caveats and fucking would you rather? God, I exhaust myself. But yeah, so I don't think if I were a vampire, that's a sentence I didn't think I'd say. I don't know that I would want to change anybody is the other thing.
Really?
Yeah, because,
Oh,
they'd think it's super cool in the beginning, and then they would resent you, and then it would be a whole,
no offense, I'd change
thing.
you in a heartbeat.
And I would welcome it.
If I was a vampire, I'd be like...
I would be a vampire by process.
Yeah.
You can show up at the door. You're now a vampire.
Yeah. Listen, there's something
Fair.
to tell you. You're a vampire now.
Ah.
Yeah. Yes. She's like, ang.
Wouldn't even tell me. Just do it.
No, I would 100%.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, just keep that in mind.
I will keep that in mind. If you become Fae and jump into a cauldron, keep me in mind for that too.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So,
also wouldn't hate being a witch.
Oh, no. Same. I agree on that one. Because I feel like that's more attainable.
Yes.
It's like goals.
Yeah. That's true.
You can do that.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want to be a zombie.
No. I don't think I'd want to be a werewolf.
I think it depends on the nature of werewolf. Like,
Yes,
is it...
Which is where we are with everything.
But, like, is it the type of werewolf that doesn't remember who it is on change, like Harry Potter style? Or are we thinking more like just can't control the change on the full moon, sort of like Bitten style?
Yeah.
Or no, she can control the change.
It would have to be.
You would have to be Bitten style.
Yeah, I obviously don't want to... well, that's just drinking. But...
Don't want to black out.
Is a werewolf
just
alcoholic? Like... An alcoholic? Is that what is that where it came from?
Great.
Good. We figured that out.
But like, I sort of agree with you. Like, what's the upside to being a wolf?
Yeah, other than like
being strong and fast.
You can eat everything you want. You can be strong. You can be fast. Like, you eat everything, and then you're still very skinny.
Knowing me, I'd be like the one werewolf with like a really low metabolism. I'd be like the chubby werewolf, like rolling around. Anyway, but yeah, there's obviously a whole bunch, but we can't talk about them all. I think both of us are same page, either vampire or fae. You're more on the vampire side. I think I would be leaning more towards fae side.
Yeah. But, like, witch is super, like... I feel like in, like, 10 years, that's gonna be... We're just gonna give in fully to our witch side and just say, fuck it.
Yeah. True story.
Because what else are you gonna do?
I know.
Yeah.
So, I guess we're gonna get into our heads up that this is not a spoiler-free zone at all. And things will definitely be getting saucy this week.
They're like
immediately saucy.
Immediately in the sauce.
Yeah. So we are reading so it's week 4 of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. It's our last week. We are reading chapters 30 to 39, aka the end of the book. And it's gonna get sad, it's gonna get hot, and it's gonna get crazy.
Weird.
Yeah. So,
it's gonna get supernatural. Sorry.
Oh my god, we didn't even think about turning into dragons.
I don't think I'd want to turn into a dragon. Although it would be really fucking cool. That's true.
They live a long time too.
Well, shapeshifter, if you can turn into anything. Like, if we're throwing that on the table... You could be fae, you could be vampire, you could be dragon, you could be shark, you could be anything.
Yeah. That's crazy. Huh. Throwing that wrench into the situation.
No answer is correct.
So, last week, we had a million things happen. And already I forget a lot of them because that's how my brain works. However,
fair.
I do, so like, they had training with the 2 dragons. They had a competition. her squad won, and they went on a field trip, and then the field trip got attacked, so then Xaden had to, like, bring her back home, and she didn't want it. And then they had their, like, the squad games or whatever like that, and Jack, the dickhead that he is, tried to kill Liam, so she used Andarna's powers and saved him, and then she channeled and got her signet, and it is lightning, because she's a
Boom.
badass.
She's a bad bitch.
But she's also spiraling, because 1, he's the first person she's killed, and she was upset about it, and 2, she feels like she was meant just for killing, because she feels like her power has no other value other than killing people. And we're actually going to find out this week that, like, I don't know, like, when she's practicing, it's, I don't know. Well, I'll get into it when I get there, but,
I don't know what you're trying to say.
I know. I have thoughts about it, and I'll get into those thoughts when we get to her training with it. But, so she's wallowing in self-pity in her room, and Xaden comes in and tells her that she needs to be strong on the outside because she's going to have a ton of enemies now. So she has to stay strong outside, but inside her room and with him, she can let it all go and just be vulnerable. So if she wants to hit him, he's there. Like, just show him what she's got. Hit him. And so instead, she decides not to hit him, but to kiss him and act on those thoughts that she's been having for quite a while.
Yes. Please.
So she makes the first move, obviously, and kisses him. And, like, I feel like he is near the door. So, like, she goes up to him and, like, wraps her arms around him and kisses him. And he is literally, like, 2 seconds, and then he spins her around and pushes her against the door and makes out with her hardcore. And I've actually heard that a lot of people find that this scene comes out of nowhere, because it's sort of, like, a bit PG up to this point. And, like, I've heard a lot of people comment and say that, like, the book is decently YA, and then this moment happens, and it goes into, like, no, this is not for children.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I had my own thoughts about it, because, like, the whole scene that happens, and then, like, they completely avoid the bed, and I'm like, that is a red flag. In my head, when I was reading it, I was like, avoiding the bed, avoiding, like, sleeping with her on the bed feels like a red flag to me. But none of it's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, like, I guess I've only read a few real NA books. Because NA really, I guess in my mind, is just YA, but there's swearing and there's sex. But you don't need the sex for it to be an NA book.
No.
Like, and I know, I've heard people say that, like, the sex does come out of nowhere, and then it's like, they think that she just put the sex in to be like, oh, this isn't a YA book, but, like, she was a romance author before. Like, this is her, I'm assuming, I have not read any of her other books, but I kind of assume that they're romance.
They are.
Based on...
I don't know how sexy they are.
So, I don't either, but I assume they're romance. So, like, I just feel like, I get that it's, like, kind of out of nowhere, but it's an enemies to lovers book. So it is going to take time for it to actually get there. We're only in the one person's point of view, and she's not sleeping with anyone else, because the only people she has crushes on are Xaden and Dain, and Dain can go fuck himself.
Yeah.
So, and, like, they talk about sex all the time, and I've also heard people complain that, like, her friend is only there to sleep with people, and, like...
Hey, man, more power to her.
Exactly, and it's not like that, because I don't know, I know it's a bit hard because she is representation.
Yeah.
And I get that, But everybody's doing it. It's not just that it's Rhiannon that's doing it. Like, literally everybody in the Rider Squadron is, because they're going to die. So, I don't know. Sex is brought up a lot in the book, and the only reason I think that the sex part is so PG to this point is because she's not having sex with anyone herself. Like, if this was a multiple point of view story, we would have got sex before now.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But I didn't really think it was out of nowhere.
I didn't either. Like, the sexual tension has been building and has been very steamy.
Scorching.
So I think the intensity of the scene is what people are sort of, because like normally, and I say this having read just a ton of Nora Roberts and stuff, normally it's just not this intense. Like, this is a very intense sex scene. Like, it's like, whoa, lots, like, it is aggressive, but in a consensual way. Right?
Yeah.
And it just seems like a lot of times, like, first time sex, it starts off really rough, but then it gets, like, tender. And this...
Yeah, which is why when I read this scene the first time, it kind of scared me, because I was like, he's avoiding the bed on purpose.
Right.
Because I was like, he's not looking for something. And, like, I wasn't really wrong. But I was like, he's not looking for something serious here. He doesn't want to, like, sleep with her in a bed and it to mean something more.
Yeah. I
was like, it's a conscious thing that he is avoiding the bed and destroying literally everything else in her room.
Yeah. So just to get into that. So, like, they're making out hardcore against the door. Which I love anyway.
Yeah.
And then he tells her that she doesn't want this. And she's like, oh no, I really do. And then she's...
I know. I'm like, stop telling her what she fucking wants. Like, let her decide.
Anyway, and then she's like, you know, should she find someone else? And I'm like, bitch, you wouldn't want it with anyone else. Like, you want it because it's him.
Know, but she's just, she's saying it to get to him. And I love it so fucking much.
Well, yeah, I do too, because his response is, fuck no. And then she says, good, because I only want you, Xaden. And of course that, like, undoes him, and he, like, starts to go wild. So, like, I guess he, like, it's sort of sad because, like, he's going so crazy because it's like nobody has ever wanted him for him before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she knows who he is and she knows what type of person he is, and, like, she wants him anyway. Whereas I feel like everybody else probably sees him with his rebellion relic first.
Yes. But I also think it's the fact that, like, the lies and deception... He knows he's not being truthful.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so they're, like, kissing like crazy. He grabs her by the bum and, like, she wraps her legs around his waist, which I think is, like, super hot, too. It's, like, one of the hottest things.
Yeah.
And she thinks to herself, like, he is mine. And, like, that's nice. I'm like, yeah. And, like, they move around a little bit and, like, they're trying to find purchase. And, like, you're right, they avoid the bed. And then eventually she's sitting on a desk. And, like, I don't know if they sweep everything off of it or if everything just falls off of it. But, like, they just keep making out. And he tries to tell her, like, that she's gonna hate him in the morning. And she doesn't really want this. But she tells him to stop telling her what she wants unless he doesn't want her.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, like, listen to what she's saying. But I do think that you are correct in saying that this is sort of a manifestation of the fact that he's not being entirely truthful with what he's doing with his life. But anyway, so, like, she's like, unless you don't want me and you want to stop, like, fine. But, like, don't tell me that I don't want it, because I want it. And then he, like, grabs her hand and, like, puts it on his peen.
Yeah.
And it's like, obviously it's like rock hard. He tells her that, like, that's not a problem. Like, he always wants her. Like, as soon as she walks into a room, apparently he gets rock hard. So, yeah,
Fair.
that's good. But, like, he also said that she knows that he knows that she has had, like, a really shit day, and he doesn't want to take advantage of it.
Which is
yeah.
sweet.
But then she says that she doesn't want to think, she only wants to feel. And I don't think that helps her case. Like, I don't think that was a helpful thing to say. Like, if you're trying to convince him that you are in your right mind and you are sound and making decisions of your own agency and not as an emotional person, telling him that you don't want to think and you only want to feel is not, I don't think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, but I almost think it's the only way that he's going to accept it. Because, like, if she's going to invest into this, then he doesn't want that either. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's the only way that he's going to be okay with sleeping with her.
I guess. But, like, she also says that it's not taking advantage when she is essentially begging him to take her.
Yes. Which she, like, were in her head the entire book. She wants this. We know she does.
So he keeps kissing her, and then he, like, starts to touch her clit through her underwear, like, with the underwear still on. And, like, she says he's being, like, deliberately teasing and not giving her enough friction. So she tells him to touch her, and his response is, like, if he does, he won't be able to stop. So, again, we get this sort of, like, they can't help it. They can't help each other. Like, they want each other so bad, but he's still trying to hold back.
Yeah, and I think she even says that, like, he said that, but she knows that, like, if she were like, wait, stop, he would obviously
100%,
stop. Like,
yeah.
He's not a piece of shit. He's a good guy.
So, anyway, no joke, my favorite line of this, like, I don't know about the whole book, but one of them is, so Violet says to him after that, she says, stop being so fucking honorable and fuck me.
Yeah.
Which I love. Because she's like, I'm just like, yes, Violet, you tell him what you want. And
I love it.
And then, so, like, he's like, oh, okay. So then I guess he starts to finger her, like he moves her panties out of the way, and he's talking about how soft she is and how hot, and how he can't wait to feel her come around his cock, which is hot, like, yes. And, like, he keeps stroking her until she comes, obviously. And she hears a lightning strike outside her window a few times. Wonder what that is. So she needs him now after that orgasm, which is weird. Like immediately after having one orgasm, she's like, I need more right this second. Like, aren't you a bit, like, I don't know, I just feel like you're a bit sensitive and you need a few minutes downtime. Okay, fine. Yeah, depends. I guess. Okay. So she, like, takes all of his clothes off, and he tries to, like, have sex with her there on the desk, but the angle is wrong. So he picks her up and leans her against her, like, armoire dresser, and apparently he fucks her so hard that they shatter the armoire. But they aren't done, because then he moves her to the wall, but over the curtain, like, I guess leaning her against a curtain, which is a terrible idea because it'll pull. And she is, like, loving it so much, and she feels her power building again, and he tells her to let go, so she does. And lightning actually whips through the room, and she can smell smoke, but then Xaden's power takes over for a minute, and the charred curtain falls to the floor. And then he finally puts her on the floor and pounds into her, and she tells him that he's beautiful, and that causes him to, like, go berserk. And apparently she needs to come again, so he strokes her clit with his hand, and she comes again, and then his power causes her training dummy to shatter, and then he comes. So there's just a lot of orgasms flying around. And a lot of shattering of furniture items.
avoidance of the bed.
Yeah. So they lie on the floor for like a few minutes, just to like survey all the damage that they've done. So like her curtain is smoldering, the training dummy is shattered, the armoire is shattered, somehow a chair got destroyed. Like pretty much everything is ruined but the bed. And like this is what so she stares at his relic, which is on his back, and sees all the scars that he has, which we've mentioned before, and then she asks him about it. I just feel like right after sex is not the best time to be asking about that. Maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like it kills the mood.
I don't know. Well, the mood's over,
I guess.
Don't know.
Anyway, so he does actually tell her about it, so we get the story now. So there are 107 scars, and that's the same amount of children that have rebel marks on them, like the same amount of rebel children. So he actually made a deal with, I don't think it was her mother, but like the people in charge.
General, whatever his name is. With the dragon that did the relics.
Yeah, so he personally vouched for those 107 kids' loyalty and allows them, and essentially he's the one that got all of them the right to join the Riders Quadrant. So, like, all of the children, I guess, the leader and the king of the kingdom or whatever initially wanted all the children killed. And Xaden managed to make a deal where they won't die. They'll go into the Riders Quadrant when they are old enough, and they can either fight to live or just be put to death. And if any of those children betray Navarre, then his life is forfeit. So I just feel like in no circumstances is it okay to kill children. So, like,
yes,
just from that admission alone and us hearing that, so Navarre was willing as a country to go that far and kill the kids of rebels because the parents were rebels. Because of that, I just feel like in no way, shape, or form do we have a good guy. You know what I mean? Like, at the beginning of the story, it's like, oh yeah, of course, Navarre, they have to protect it and blah, blah, blah. At this point, I feel like it's setting us up to be like, Navarre's not actually a good place.
Yes. You know what? It feels very Hunger Games.
Yeah. But like,
because in the beginning, you're like, obviously in the beginning, you don't think that greatly of them anyway. But they're literally sending children to die. But like, that's the whole Riders Quadrant in general. Like, they're not children, but they're 20, and they're like letting like 50% of them die in the first day they go there, and they're like, that's reasonable, who cares? Like, there's nothing stopping all of this death. And like in the snippet of there's like a scene from the new book, it seems like it's worse. So I don't know what's gonna happen in the new book. And there was that comment that she made on somebody's, somebody asked on Instagram why nobody cares that all these kids are dying in the Riders Quadrant, and she said that'll come up in a future book. So,
well, that's fun.
But yeah, I think like they're letting them all die in the Riders Quadrant. That's also just insane. Yeah,
I don't know. It just like this is really like I think the turning point for us, like seeing the country the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Violet too, right? Because Violet has been thinking this entire time, like, because it is like indoctrined into them at a young age that, you know, it's very hard to be in the Riders Quadrant, so you need to be strong, you need to be tough. So of course half them die. You know what I mean? Like, well, they can't be riders unless they're really strong and tough and survive. So like,
Yeah.
It just seems like this is sort of her first glimpse at how unfair her kingdom really is. Like, it's almost like a little bit of her wake-up call. So he, like, goes to get up and leave, but she asks him to stay. And he doesn't think it's a good idea because he doesn't want, I guess, anyone seeing him leave her room, like, early in the morning, like, the next morning, and thinking that maybe she has slept her way to the top. Yeah. Which, I mean, is nice of him.
Like, I get it, but also, the dragon chose her. I guess you could argue that
maybe
Taryn chose her because of them sleeping together.
Maybe.
And the dragons are mates. Like, you could, in a world, argue that, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, so he said, so she does manage to, like, convince him to stay, but he was like, fine, but we have to keep this really low key. And then he tells her that it would be a mistake to fall for him. They always say that.
They do. These morally gray men. Ugh.
Yeah. Stop being morally gray, then.
Except for I know we did
it. So when she wakes up, Xaden is gone, but there's a little jar of violets on her nightstand, which is adorable. Because it means that either he had to go and pick them and bring them back to her room, or he had his shadows go pick them and bring them to him.
Yeah. So sweet.
So she hears a knock on the door and she thinks it's like, because obviously Liam is still injured, so he's not guarding her right now. So she thinks it's somebody else that Xaden has put in charge of guarding her. But it's actually Professor Carr for training duty. So
wild.
This is the professor that told her siblings were really amazing and hopefully she could live up to it, and was essentially just an ass. And now, of course, that she's developed her signet, all of a sudden he thinks she's like a hot commodity, and it's like, we have to train right now.
Interested.
Yeah. So they fly to a clearing away from like a bunch of trees so that she doesn't catch anything on fire. And he sort of calls her fragile because he says that
again.
Yeah, so like he sort of says like that there's like most powers have fail safes put in them so that the person doesn't get too powerful. And essentially he says that her failsafe is the fact that her body is so frail that she can't get too powerful, because if her lightning is too powerful, then she'll die because she's so weak. So, like, anyways, he's a bit of an asshole. And that pisses Taryn off, obviously, and, like, Taryn, like, growls at him. And he then is, like, sort of, like, taken aback a little bit, and he was like, sorry, like, meant no offense. But then she's like, I don't trust you because you killed Jeremiah. And he's like, so Jeremiah is the guy that can read everyone's mind. And Professor Carr is the one who came in and, like, just snapped his neck and took his body away. And Carr sort of reminds her that, like, mind readers aren't allowed to exist because they're considered a threat. Because they can get all sorts of information from everybody, and knowledge is power. So, like, if he heard the wrong thing, he could then sell that information to the highest bidder. Or if he heard, like, something from the king, like, you know, it's just, apparently they're not allowed to exist. But then he says, like, he offers her some advice. He doesn't plan on killing her. It's like, thank you, good to know. But he says that because her and Xaden are, like, a package deal, it makes them a very, like, he says, you guys are the most coveted pair in a really long time. Like, they're automatically being paired together because the dragons are mates. So, like, they are a package. You can't get one without the other.
Yeah.
But he also said, like, you're also powerful enough to be, like, a formidable enemy. So, like, command would not think twice about killing them if they seemed to be doing something threatening. So he said, like, keep your loyalties very clear. Like, keep it very obvious that you are a loyal rider of Navarre. Because if anything looks like you might be rebelling or you might be betraying your country, they will just kill you. Because they're so powerful. And it's like, I kind of actually appreciate his candor, I'll say. Like, I appreciate that he is being completely honest.
Yeah. I appreciate that too.
Anyway, so he's like, let's get to training. And he asks her to call the lightning, but she doesn't really know how to call it. Like, it's happened, but both times have been very heat of the moment. So he was like, well, what's been happening when you've called the lightning? And, like, she obviously doesn't want to get into exactly what happened because she killed someone the first time, and then the other couple of times has been during sex. So, like, she said that he just said, oh, so you had, like, obviously she didn't say, oh, I was having sex. But she just said, I think it was emotional. Like, I think it had something to do with my emotions. And he said, okay. So, the prof wants her to get in the same state of mind, which is hilarious. So essentially, he wants her to get horny during class.
He doesn't know he's saying
No,
that,
he doesn't.
though.
But still, like...
But I love it. So dumb.
So she opens her mind to Xaden, like their little corridor that she has in her mind, and he helps her out by sending her images of her through his eyes while they were having sex. And it turns her the fuck on. And she lets...
Of course it does.
And she lets some lightning loose. And I just feel like it's super awkward because Tairn is a witness to all this because he's always in her head. So, like...
Yeah, I don't think he cares, though, because, like, he's put her through this, too. Like, she was witness to his.
But not a witness. She just felt his feelings. Like, she didn't actually see it with her own eyes. And, like, what would that even look like with two dragons?
You move in your head. Like How to Train Your Dragon when they do their dances. They're already mated. They don't need to mate each other. Yeah. Now I'm thinking about dragons having sex.
Yeah, anyway.
I think he just... but he's also had other bonds in his life, and he sees every memory a person has. So, like, he sees every other time she's had sex too. Like, it's too much. Would not like
that.
I
hope he can close himself off the same way that she can close herself off. But I hope that he can, like, shut it off. Like,
maybe he gets off on it.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
That's fair. I agree.
Anyway, so she manages to actually, like, let the lightning loose, and she does it a few more times, and she does eventually manage to figure out how to do it without being turned on, but she can't aim for shit. So later, after practice, she's in a room, and Xaden comes by, and, like, they're trying really hard to not make things awkward between them, and it's, I don't know, like, I can't decide if at this point, like, or, like, I don't know, because, like, you can tell that he's being non-committal, but he's also doing relationship-y things. So, like, he's sending her mixed messages.
100%. Like, he left Violet's so that, like, she wasn't like, oh, he didn't even stay the night or whatever. Like, he, yeah.
Now, I'd love to know, like, if they actually, like, did he sleep at all? Because, like you said, there was, like, bed avoidance. So, like, that night, did he sleep?
And he also, like, cleaned up a bit with his shadows to, like... So, I don't know. Maybe he didn't sleep. Maybe he just panicked in the bed because of the secret.
Like, lying down with her, like, tucked in me, like, just, like, freaking out.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
So, anyway, for some reason she asks him to tell her something. And it was where he went the night before the gauntlet, which was week 2.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't really, like, he's sort of hesitant to tell her, but he does tell her. Apparently, so it was him and Garrick and somebody else? Riddick, maybe?
Probably.
So she sees them, they were, like, in the courtyard coming back from something late at night. And she's like, where were you guys? And, like, I guess Xaden tells her, like, 3rd year stuff, don't worry about it. But now she's like, for some reason, I don't know, it's weird because this moment was never brought up again. Like, it doesn't stay in her head. Like, she doesn't think about it. Like, she doesn't keep thinking about it.
No. But she asked him at the time where he was, and he was like,
yeah, he said 3rd year stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, still, she's asking him...
It's plot, Kristen, it's plot. Jesus. Like,
but if she's asking him again now, I would have hoped that over the course of the past couple of, like, months that we've experienced in the book, I would have just hoped that maybe it would have crossed her mind again. And, like, maybe it was something that really bothered her and she didn't know why, or, like, something to make it stick in her head as, like, a niggling something. Like, just some reason to bring it up now.
Well, you'd think that she would have been like, hey, that night before the gauntlet, and then also the night that you saved my life, and you were fully dressed, and so were your many friends that came into my room and disposed of the bodies. What were you all doing both of those nights as rebellion-marked people that were in their flight gear?
But,
she could have brought them both up because they were both...
But, like...
They were both the same thing.
But again, like, you would think that those events would have crossed her mind. Because, like, presumably we're in her mind. So, like, for her to bring up those events again, I would have just liked for there to be a mention of those events, of her thinking, those weren't quite right. I should ask him. And then just never getting the chance. You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah...
Instead of her being like, at the time, that's weird. Oh, well, I'll forget all about it.
I know, but, like, I guess she never really had the chance to ask him about the scars until they had their mental bond. And then she did, and then he was like, nope, shutting that down. So I don't know. I feel like she didn't think about his scars between the moment she saw them and then asking him, but it was just kind of a given that she was thinking about
I guess,
them.
But then she sees them again and she's like, oh yeah, what's with the scars?
No, I mean when she asked him through their mental bond one
right.
day.
Yeah, you're right. She did.
And, like, that's how we knew she's still thinking about it, but, like, she hadn't been, like, outwardly thinking about it.
I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I think it's mostly plot, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's plot.
Anyway, so he tells her he was in Athabine, or Athabine, or Athabine, I don't know. But she can't know why. He can't tell her why. So she just accepts that and is like, okay, sure. And she's, like, picking up the stuff that they knocked off her desk, and she picks up a book. And the book was her father's. I guess her sister smuggled it into her stuff. Like, at the very beginning, she left it behind. And her sister got it for her and smuggled it into her stuff after the fact. And apparently it has a letter written by him for her stuck in it that she hadn't found before. And the note says that folklore is passed from generation to generation, and it only takes one desperate generation to change or erase history. And he knows that she will make the right choice.
What could that mean?
Yes, we don't know. Which generation is the desperate one? What are they desperate to change? Who knows? But the book is that folklore book that she was looking for in the archives, and they were like, we don't have that book. And she was like, that's weird. You're supposed to have a copy of every book. And there's no way a library can have every single book.
I know, but this is like the library, the archive. Like, they should have all the books.
Anyway, so there's the folklore book, and then there's a story in there of the venin. And it tells us the story. So, like, we've heard a little bit of sprinkling throughout the book that, like, venin are really scary, and parents used the tales of venin to scare their kids, and that they're, like, just, like, made-up monsters, like the boogeyman. But this story tells us the origins of venin. So apparently they were humans that took in too much power and became evil. And then they created wyverns. But most of the stories, like in most folklore and myths and all that sort of thing, most stories have like a message or like, you know, a moral. So these ones were about how like power corrupts. I wonder who we could be talking about. Definitely not her mother, who is very high up in the chain of command.
Can't be.
And I still don't think she is her mother, but that's a separate story. So she sort of doesn't really know what her dad is trying to tell her, and I sort of agree. Like, she got to get up on a balcony and like see things from a different perspective. Like, if you're in it, obviously it's hard.
You would never see what he's trying to say.
No.
Like from
No, absolutely not. But that's what I mean. Like, she's not going to get it. Of course she's not. Because she's not seeing things from, like, above. She's not seeing things from the higher perspective.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Xaden, like, moves on her. And he, like, wants to have sex again. But Violet knows that if they keep this up, like, he is an awesome person. Like, in her eyes, like, he's very good to her, so she'll definitely fall for him, and she knows that he doesn't want her to. So she tells him that she cannot separate sex and emotion where he's concerned, and since he refuses to admit that he's falling for her too, like, she was like, I know you care for me. Like, he obviously wouldn't have designed her saddle, he wouldn't have trained her, he wouldn't have got her those violets if he didn't care for her. So she says, like, I know you care, but he's not ready to admit it, and he's not ready to enter into a relationship based on those feelings. So because of that, she doesn't want to keep having sex, because she knows that she'll eventually fall in love with him. I think they're already in love with each other, to be honest. I think this falling for business is nonsense. They've both already fell.
Yeah.
So she says they'll keep it to last night, like, call it a one-off. And then she tells him that he doesn't get to tell her how to feel.
She's so emotionally
good. Yes.
Mature. Yeah. She understands her emotions in a way that I will never understand. Never.
Yeah. So, essentially, she just says, like, she was like, you can't tell me how to feel, because he's like, you can't fall for me. It's a terrible decision. She's like, you can't tell me that. Like, if I fall for you, that's on me. I'm not asking you to do anything about it. And I feel like that's a big issue in a lot of, like, books. It's like, people are afraid that someone else is going to have feelings for them. But, like, if someone else has feelings for you, that's their thing to deal with. They're not, for the most part now. I know that there are some assholes out there who are like, I like you. That means you, like, are beholden to me and, like, you owe me because I have feelings for you. No, That's not how it works. If you have feelings for someone, that's on you to deal with. You can pursue that person if they're free and able to be pursued. But, like, her feelings are her own. She's not asking him to do anything about it. So, like, for him to be like, no, you can't. It's like, fuck off, dude. Like, she can do whatever she wants. She's not asking him to, like, get married because she likes him. You know what I mean?
I completely know what you mean. And that's kind of what it comes down to. Like, she realizes that too. But I'm just so impressed with her knowing her emotions and her heart. And, like, throughout the whole book, she's, like, so emotionally mature.
Anyway, so, he, like, agrees with it, and he admits, like, maybe it's for the best that they don't start anything, since they have Taryn and Scaly, and, like, a relationship could complicate everything. And she gets really upset at this, and throws him out of her room. And then a month passes. It's wild. So, a month later, they're apparently getting ready to celebrate Reunification Day. AKA the day that Xaden's father lost his rebellion, like lost the battle for rebellion. So, apparently the king is coming to celebrate at the school, so like they all get special dress uniforms, which actually sound really cool. Like, there's a...
Yeah, they get to choose.
And there's like a ton of different options. Like, that is super cool. So, they're eating breakfast, and they're talking about, like, what uniforms they're gonna pick, or whatever. Like, whether they're gonna wear pants, or a skirt, or a dress, or whatever. And Violet and Xaden are actually having, like, a mind conversation. And she's, like, staring at him, thinking about how hot he is. And he's telling her to stop, because he can't think when she looks at him like that. So... she does one better and tells him that if he would just get over himself and admit he has feelings for her, she would strip down and get on her knees and suck his cock. And I love it so much. And that makes him choke on his breakfast, and then everybody stares at him because he just randomly, like, chokes in the middle of nothing.
I fucking love it. It's so good.
So, like, on top of the fact that it's Reunification Day, it's also, like, 10 days to graduation. So, like, yay, she's made it pretty much to through her first year of Rider School. And she's really worried about what assignment Xaden will get. Because I think she's saying that because he's so powerful, like, they'll send him to the front lines, which is decently far away. But they're in battle brief, and she tells him, like, through their little mind bond, to take her to bed.
Out of nowhere. I fucking love it.
And it's sort of like, you know, since you're leaving soon, we might as well. But, like, he still won't admit that there's anything between them, and he says, like, we're gonna graduate, and it's gonna stay like that. And then she wonders if he's relieving sexual tension elsewhere. And then she asks him, just out of the blue, if he's sleeping with...
I know.
If he's sleeping with Imogen. And I don't really get where her mind's at. Like, it really came out of nowhere.
I felt the same way when I first read it, but then I thought back to who I was as a person at 20, and I was like, oh yeah, completely makes sense.
Like, I know that, like...
being insecure, and, like, especially if a guy's like, I'm not gonna sleep with you, because feelings and shit, and, like, you're like, I'm gonna suck your dick. And then you're like, take me to bed. And he's like, we can't, or, like, whatever. And you're like, there must be, it feels like a rejection. It's not, in a way, but I kind of get it a bit more if you think about, like, your mental headspace at the age of 20. Guess.
And I think Imogen might have been, like, looking in his direction, too, which...
100%. And we've talked about it a few times, like, and she's felt jealous of her. Yeah.
Anyway, so because she asked him if he was sleeping with Imogen, like, through their head, that, like, I guess it made him angry, and he yelled her last name out loud in class. And I just love that she's getting him on edge.
I actually hate it. There's so much secondhand embarrassment, but I'm also like, his recovery
is so
A+.
good.
Like, you just landed that. You landed
so like
that.
So that's the thing. Like, obviously they're in the middle of class and like they're discussing a battle, and he just yells out "Sorengale," and then the prof is like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, I would ask for Mira Sorengale because she can create a barrier and protect it and blah blah blah, and she would be a great asset." So like he really covered well. But then Violet pipes up and says, "I would just send the third year since they graduate soon anyway. Might as well send them early." To be like a dig at Xaden, like, I don't want you here 10 more days. Like, just go now.
Yeah.
So like later that night, they're all getting ready they're all ready for the party, and they all meet up. So it's Violet, Rhiannon, Riddick, Liam, and Nadine. Have we heard a lot about Nadine?
The only thing I remember hearing about her is I think she wasn't cool with sitting with people with rebellion relics. So that's all I remember.
So they're all going to the party together, and she asks where Xaden is, or she asks Xaden in their little mind thing where he is, but like he doesn't answer. So the reunification day, it's not only the day that, you know, they won against the rebels, it's also the day that her brother died 6 years ago. So like it's not a very comfortable day for her. But like, so she's not crazy in love with the party either, but Liam is like around her, and at the party everybody is staring at Liam and his rebel mark, and she's like, shit, right? Like, it didn't even cross her mind that like none of the rebels are there. And by rebels, I mean rebel children. Like, Imogen's not there, like Xaden's not there, Garrick is not there, Bodhi is not there. Like, none of them are present. And she's like, shit, right, of course. Everybody is going to be, like, hyper aware of them today. Because this is the day they lost. And this is, like, everybody's going to, like, extra hate on them today. So, like, she tries to make Liam go. Because she's like, this is definitely not fair for you to have to, like, deal with all of this hate and people staring at you. But he's like, no, I won't leave your side. I promise that I wouldn't leave. And it sucks. Yep. So her mother actually approaches her with the king, and they chat a little bit and just small talk. And all of a sudden Xaden comes up in conversation because their dragons are mated, it means that they're sort of linked now. So the king sort of is talking about it. And her mother says that, oh, seems like you've grown close due to your dragons being mated. And the king says that he is glad that there's a Sorengale watching him in case he decides to start another war. And I'm just like, I just did the biggest eye roll ever, because it's like, he didn't start the first war, you dum-dums.
Yeah, he's a fucking child. Like, I know he's not now, but he was a child at the time.
He was, what, 17?
Yeah, I guess 6 years ago. He's 23
Younger
now.
When it started.
Well, yeah, when it
17
ended was 6 years ago, so, yeah.
Anyway, so her mom and the king move on, and I guess, like, they were making subtle digs at Liam as well. So she tells Liam that she's gonna kill Xaden for making him do this. But he said that Xaden actually didn't make him. And actually said that he didn't have to go. But he promised to protect her, and so he is. And she saved his life. So it's the least he could do. And, like, Liam's just a good boy. Like, he's just a good boy.
Such a good boy.
Like, we love Liam. I would adopt Liam in a heartbeat.
100%.
I wouldn't have sex with him, but I'd adopt him. Because he's just like a little boy. Little baby boy. So Dain approaches and tells Violet she looks beautiful. And he cups her face like he usually does. And then asks Liam if she's tried to escape yet. And Liam's like, no. And then essentially tells her that there's a stairwell nearby and to go. So I guess she's not crazy about parties either. So they just leave.
Yes. But I feel like this is like Dain being manipulative.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that. Like, at all.
But it is manipulative in some way. I don't know why. But
yeah, this is what I mean. Like, I don't know what his motivation is to help her sneak out. You know what I mean? Because, like, he wants to keep her away from Xaden. Like, everybody is at the party, including him. If he wants to keep her away from Xaden, keep her at the party with him.
Maybe to get her mother mad at her for leaving and potentially going to see Xaden. I know, it doesn't make sense, but there's something.
Yeah, it's weird. So, they do leave, and she uses, like, the door in her mind to find Xaden. And she tells Liam, just like, go home, Liam. And I'm like, he does. Which, again, is weird, because she hasn't found him yet. So yeah. Liam's just like, couldn't let you go to the party alone, but I'll let you wander around the school alone.
I guess maybe he uses his foresight and sees that Bodhi and Garrick are like standing outside. It's a stretch.
It is a stretch.
Or maybe he was just like, shit, she's pissed. I'm gonna get out of here.
Anyway, so she climbs some stairs and she sees Garrick and Bodhi guarding the parapet. Xaden is sitting on it. So the thing that kills like half the people that try and walk across it, he's just funny. Sitting on it. Just, living his best life. And they sort of tell her like she won't want to see him tonight. He's in a mood. And she just sort of eye rolls and she's like, I'm going anyway. Like, thanks, but I'm going. So she takes her shoes off, obviously, because I think she's wearing heels. Or, like, at least platforms or wedges or something that's really, really not a great footwear for the parapet. And, like, she's wearing, like, a dress that's, like, really flapping in the breeze here. But she does approach him, and she sees, obviously, he's in, like, she's like, shit, everybody is celebrating the day his father was killed. So, like, that sucks. Meanwhile, he is mourning the loss of his father. So, like, it's like, hey, my dad died. Woohoo! You know what I mean? Like, so, obviously, she's like, shit. And then she realizes, like, he takes care of everybody. Like, all the rebel children, he took all of their life debts on. He takes care of her. He takes care of his wing. Like, he takes care of everybody. And she's like, shit, who takes care of him? And it's like, valid, thank you. Yeah. And what?
But after her father died, you're like, nobody really took care of her either. Her mother ignored her for a year. Like,
yeah, but
she had her sister, but her sister went into the Riders Quadrant immediately. Like, I know it's not the same, but like, she's had a bunch of shit too.
I know, but I think it's different because like she doesn't have the level of responsibility that he has. So like,
oh, for sure.
Like, you're right. Like, nobody took care of her either, but like, she didn't have to take care of a million other people. She just really only had to worry about herself. Yeah. And she had friends. She had Dain, and she did have her sister, and she did have that Jacindia Mrs. from the archives. Like, she had people to like be concerned for her.
Yeah, but like clearly Garrick and Bodhi are actually concerned for.
I guess I still feel like their level of concern does not exceed his responsibility for them. Because, like, he has to keep them in line, or else he's dead. Besides the point. So she's, like, looking at him, realizes that she's in love with him, and realizes also it doesn't matter if he feels the same way. Which, again, just sort of it proves my point from earlier that, like, her feelings for him have nothing to do with it. Like, she's not asking him to reciprocate.
Which is... This is why I find it so wild that, like, she knows her feelings so well, but I guess maybe it makes even more sense, but it, like, the whole moment where she asks him about Imogen earlier just seems so immature for her, where I feel like she is so mature, but maybe she just realizes that, hey, I'm jealous, I'm gonna bring it up, I guess, but yeah. Just interesting.
So, he obviously sees her coming towards them, and he, like, flips out and tells her to go back, because, like, this...
Of course, a fucking course.
So get back, you're on the parapet, you will die. You're not wearing shoes. And she's like, I'm only gonna go back if you are. And I will say that I don't love this interaction here. Like, not that I don't like what happens. I do. But I find her being a little manipulative. Like, at this part. I'm not going back unless you are. Like, girl, like, he's mourning his father. Like, maybe, like, I just want her to just, like, maybe not do this tonight. You know what I mean?
But I do know what you mean, but I think that she originally actually thinks he's in danger.
Yes, and I appreciate that. But, like, now that she sees that, oh, no, it's just a sad night for him, maybe, like, go and come back later. Like, you know what I mean? Like...
No, I think he should get the fuck off the parapet. I completely agree with her. Until he's like, hey, I can catch myself with the shadows, which he does say. And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot that. But until he says that, I'm like, yeah, go out and tell him to get off. 100% agree.
Okay.
It's like, she sees it as semi-suicidal.
Yeah, okay.
I think.
Okay. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they have, like, a nice conversation on the parapet. And she tells him, like, she knows that he wants her. And, like, she was like, I know that you care for me. You show it by, like, everything you do with the training, the saddle, the violets. But, like, she's like, I know that if you're afraid that if I get to know the real you, I won't want you. And she's like, yeah, I'm really nervous to, like, risk everything, but she said it's the fear that makes it worth it. And she said if she wasn't afraid, it wouldn't be worth it. And he then flat out asks her, like, why did you accuse me of sleeping with Imogen? And she just admits, like, she was jealous, and he actually then tells her that Imogen has a thing for Garrick.
Which I didn't see that.
I didn't either.
I didn't see
coming out of left field completely.
I guess every time they talk about her looking at him, Garrick is there too, I guess. But, like, the second time I read it, I tried to, like, pay more attention, and I was like,
Oh, well, at the very beginning, remember, like, Imogen is, like, very protective of Xaden?
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be an issue, because, like, at the end of the book, it doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue. I think it's actually true. I just think it came so far out of left field that it doesn't feel like that was the intention.
Anyway, he also tells her that he gets jealous too, because after threshing, he saw Dain kiss her, and apparently he, like, lost it. It was that kiss that we talked about that had no chemistry whatsoever, that she was like, nope, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But he says that he wants to do this. He said he's tired of fighting it, and she's it for him, which is adorable. I love it.
Yeah.
So he tells her to, like, get down off the parapet, but he also then says he can't take care of anyone tonight. But she insists.
Which is fair.
So that's another part I don't like. Like, I wish instead of her just insisting, no, let's go. No, we're going back to your room. Because that's all she does.
Yeah.
She insists that he get down. And, like, even though he's in a mood. And I understand, like, she's gonna go back to the room and she's gonna do something nice. But, like, I wish she would have said something. Like, he says, I can't, I'm not in the mood, I can't take care of anyone tonight. I wish she would have said, then let me take care of you. Or something to that effect.
I think she does say
when
that,
they
like,
get back to the room.
She says it later.
Like,
yeah, I agree. Like, it's also maybe not on the anniversary of his father's death. Like you said, it's not the time to be like, I love you, you love me, stop playing around. Like, I get that 100%, but I do think, like, she just wanted to get him off the parapet. Which
is fine, but, like, if he says, you know, like, can you just leave me alone? I'm not in the mood for it. Like, I can't deal with this tonight. I wish she would have been like, okay, let me bring you back to your room and I'll leave you alone for the night if that's what you want. Or, like, something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah, because he doesn't really say he doesn't say he wants to be alone. He just says he can't take care of her. So, yeah, I do agree. Like, she should have said it earlier. Or she should have just been like, then let me walk you to your room. Then, like, whatever. I get what you're saying.
Anyway, so she insists and, like, she makes him take her to his room. So then they go to his room, and apparently it's really big because he's a wing leader. But then she makes him sit on the bed, and then she tells him she's gonna take care of him. So she takes his boots off, and his coat off, and his riding leathers. And then she tells him that, like, he doesn't have to talk about it with her, and she doesn't expect him to. But she does ask him, like, I don't know, to take his mind off stuff, like, where he got a certain scar. And he says it's from Scaly at threshing. And she says that, like, it's weird because most dragons do give their riders scars at threshing. But Tiernan and Darna have never hurt her.
Yeah.
And this reminds Xaden of Tynan. So apparently he wanted to kill them just for attacking her. But, like, it also reminds him that in 2 weeks he won't be around to protect her if she gets challenged. And she, like, goes to put him in bed and, like, just tuck him in, just in a nice way. And he tells her that he's going to keep her no matter what. And she says, good, because I think I'm in love with you. Which is cute. Not very certain, though.
Yeah. Well, like, no, but it's also, like, I guess maybe she was just going to put him in bed and leave.
But again, like, that's fine. I'm not...
Just
I'm not upset with her, like, with her getting him to his room and taking care of him and putting him in bed. That's not what I'm upset about. I'm upset with the fact that she didn't communicate that with him. Like, he was like, I can't take care of you. And she was like, well, come on anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I just wish it would have been more like, okay, well, I'm going to take care of you. Or let me at least walk you to your room. Or let me put you to bed. Or, like, something to make him aware that she wasn't going to take emotional advantage of him.
Do you think he would have liked her saying that, though? Like, I don't think he's like super toxic masculinity that, like, he would not be okay with somebody being like, I'm gonna walk you to your room. He's like, I'm the best warrior that has ever warriored in this quadrant. Like, do you think he would oppose to that?
No, I think maybe if she had said it in front of a large group of people, maybe he would have been like, oh, we can't show weakness. But I think just they were essentially alone. I don't think Bodhi and Garrick were there. I think they left as soon as she went out on the parapet.
Yeah.
They were like, no way, we're not dealing with this shit. So they just pieced out. And I guess they wanted to give them privacy too. So, like, there was no one around.
For sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so she says, like, I think I'm in love with you, and he says, you think or you know? And she says, she knows. She's wildly in love with him. So, like, that goes from, I think I'm in love with you. I'm wildly in love with you.
50 to 200.
Yeah.
Immediately.
He starts to kiss her, and he tells her that he needs her. And if she doesn't want this tonight, that it's fine. But if she doesn't, she needs to leave. Because if she sticks around, he's going to have her naked in 2 minutes. Which I appreciate. And then she tells him there's no way he's going to have her corset off in 2 minutes. And anyway, I don't actually know. I don't remember her actually timing him. But they kiss, and then they strip, and he gets her on the bed, and he starts eating her out, and then he adds his fingers into the mix, and then she comes, and of course there's lightning outside, and then they have sex, and then there's more lightning, and she tells him she loves him, which causes him to go wild, and then she comes again. He never says he loves her, by the way, in this interaction.
No.
Which is something to think about. So, after round 1, she realizes that her lightning broke his window out, which is crazy. So...
And, like, nothing matters. Nothing fucking matters about destroying these rooms.
No, things can get fixed immediately. They're on to round 3 with her on top of him when there's a knock at the door. Apparently, it's Garrick. And Xaden says, like, dude, seriously, go away. Like, this better be, like, a life or death situation. But Garrick's like, I wish I could. Like, I would absolutely not be here. But, he says, we're under attack. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah.
Wild.
So, obviously, they're like, oh, shit. So they get dressed. She obviously only has her fancy dress to put on. So he gives her his coat, and they head out to formation. And they're waiting to hear what's happening. And Xaden tells her in his head that they're not actually under attack. It's the last war game. So it's not an actual emergency.
So
they just
dumb.
faked it to see how fast everybody could get in formation. Like a fire drill. And I hate it.
Which I guess is fair.
I hate it.
But I
hate
it too.
So the plan is to send each squad, so I guess each of the 4 wings, in a different direction. And each little squad is gonna pick where they set up, as if they're defending the border from an attack. However, they're assigning wing leaders to certain posts as, like, the headquarters for each wing. So, 4th wing is apparently going southeast. So, like, technically, Xaden is going to be in one, like, section as a command center, and then he's going to delegate to, like, different outposts for all the 4 sections, we'll say. So Xaden is actually setting up in Athabine. Dun, dun, dun.
Imagine.
The city that he was in before, that he couldn't tell Violet why he was there. And now he's being assigned there?
And it's also outside of their wards?
So weird. And it's a 5-day exercise. It's a long time.
Very long.
So Dain tells them that his little section, his squad, are going to claim the post at Eltival and, like, run and pack. They're going to leave in 30 minutes. So, like, you guys got to go pack. So they get back to the courtyard, and all the dragons are there. And Xaden had a little harness made for Andarna so that she could come on long flights and just clip into Taryn when she gets tired. And it's so cute. I love it.
So cute.
I wish I could see, and like, I know that obviously we can't see unless somebody makes fan art for it. Or if Rebecca Yarros, like, comes out with, like, a scale model. I'd just love to see the actual size difference. Right?
Same. Because I don't get it.
I can't.
Because obviously we said in the beginning, we thought, like, she was small, Violet was small, they were going to be small together. But
no, and, like,
case.
for the fact, like, I cannot visualize how big Dain is. Even though I know that they said that Violet, like, didn't even reach his ankle. I don't think I've ever been in the presence of something that large before.
No. I can't think of anything that large.
A whale or something.
Like, a blue
but, like,
whale,
obviously we've never...
They don't have ankles.
You're right. Do you know what's funny? I wasn't thinking of that at all. I was thinking of, we've never been able to see a full blue whale because they're under the water, so I'd never be able to stand up next to one.
Because they're going to stand like this, and you'd be only to their little tail joint.
So, like, I cannot visualize how big he is versus how small Andarna is versus how small Violet is. And I would like to be able to. Mm-hmm. I'd like somebody to do the math on that, please. Anyway, so it's really cute. So Dain is getting ready to go, and Xaden, like, comes over to her, and she sort of just thinks that he's saying goodbye. And it, like, Dain's like, what are you, like, essentially, like, go, like, you need to leave, go do your thing. And Violet's sort of like, Dain, it's okay, like, he's just saying goodbye. But then he's like, actually, I'm taking Violet and Liam and Imogen with me. And Dain is pissed. He doesn't want him taking Violet.
Imagine.
But Xaden outranks him and uses, like, good logic as to why she should come with him. Like, even though Athabine is beyond the wards. Like, he uses some sound logic. So Dain can't really argue with him. Can't really say anything against him. And, like, she tries to get them to stop arguing. So she touches Xaden's arm and tells him that if he wants her to go with him, then she'll go. And Xaden's gaze, like, obviously softens at her, because, you know, they're still in their lovey-dovey phase. Like, she just told him that she loved him. And, like, but obviously Dain, like, sees the affection and gets pissed off because she chose Xaden. And he begs her not to go, that Xaden is going to get her killed. But she tells him that she trusts him. So Dain sucks it up and whispers to her that he'll miss her, and he turns and walks away.
I'm telling him.
Such a dick. Honestly, this is the one thing I don't know how I'm going to put up with him for another 4 books.
I just can't believe that we're going to have to.
I wish we didn't. Like, I hope he dies. He's not going to, but I hope he does. I swear to God, if he ends up, like, this is one thing I'm terrified of. If we end up with, like, a bait and switch. Like, if he, like, changes his ways and then she starts getting feelings for him, I am going to be so furious.
It's not going to happen.
We don't know that. We don't know that.
No, I
don't know that.
I can't say that. No, it's not. I'll burn this world to the ground. And it's already burning. Doesn't matter. We would actually, like, people would riot.
I agree.
She would not do this to us. Although, you know what? This is so bad. But oh, fuck. She's a military romance author. So, like, maybe rules are very important to her, too. Oh, God. Yeah. Just kill me now. That's it.
Like, a part of me is like, should I wait for somebody to, like, tell me what the entire book's about and spoil it before I read the next one?
Well, I'm getting it the day it comes out, and I will be reading it if I have to take a day off work or not. Okay. So I will let you know.
Tell me if it's bad or not. And I don't mean bad, like, written I'm sure it will be fine. I mean, if I'm gonna hate my life.
Well, we are, because it's going to end on a stupid cliffhanger again, because there's 5 fucking books.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So, they fly all morning, and keep in mind that Xaden and Violet have barely slept, because they've been having sex all night. So, they reach Athabine, which is in Tirandor, so that's where Xaden is from. And they stop at a lake near their outpost for the dragons to get a drink. And she is worried for Andarna because it might not be safe out here. Because, like, again, they're beyond the wards. But Taryn reminds her that, like, she can't control a dragon. Like, regardless of her age, she wanted to come. So even if she's a baby by dragon standards, she still makes up her own mind. So she chats with Liam for a bit until Xaden comes and, like, holds her hand and leads her out of sight around a boulder. And he starts to, like, massage her muscles because, like, she was flying all night, and I think it's one of her longest it's probably the longest flight she's ever had to do. So, like, she's really sore. And then he makes a move on her for sexy times. And they're, like, getting all hot and heavy. And they are interrupted. But this time, it's not Garrick. It is a griffin rider, who are, like, the sworn enemies. So there are 2 more 30 feet away. And Violet is, like, ready to fight. Because she, again, like, she assumes they are her enemies. So she's already called to Taryn, and she's already told Andarna to stay with Sgael. And I'm like, isn't Sgael gonna be needed, like, for this fight? Like, why are you, like, Sgael's not just gonna sit by and let Xaden fight with nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's about to, like, erupt, like, let loose her lightning power on them, when Xaden clamps her arms by her side and then wraps her in his arms and kisses her. And he tells her if she's ever trusted him, she needs to do it now and to stay here and stay calm. And then he passes her to Liam, as if she is a possession and not a person.
A sack of potatoes.
Yes. And Liam says he's sorry about this, and even though she yells at him to let her go, he does not. Until Taryn roars at him and smacks his hands into letting go. So I guess he, like, used his tail or something to smack his hands, so he lets her go.
Yeah.
And Xaden approaches the Griffin Riders calmly, and all he says is, "You're fucking early." And that causes Violet's heart to stop. Because
of course it does.
It means that Xaden has been in contact with the enemy kingdom, which makes him a rebel / traitor. And she's essentially spent this whole book, like, fighting with herself about just because his dad's a traitor doesn't mean he's a traitor, when, in fact...
Turns out, it does. Allegedly, yeah. Not good.
It is not good.
Not good. 5 starts with a quote that I thought was kind of interesting. It says, "In his last days of interrogation, Fen Ryerson lost touch with reality, railing against the kingdom of Navir. He accused King Tori and all who came before him of a conspiracy so vast, so unspeakable, that it does not bear repeating by this historian." And then, "The execution was swift and merciful for a madman who cost untold lives." And it's by Colonel Lewis Markham, which I kind of wonder, do you think that's Professor Markham?
I would say. Because, like, a part of...
Yeah. Because they normally have, like, some thing to do with the story.
Well, like, on top of that, a part of me, like, when I'm reading this, a part of me believes that, like, this is happening. Like, this happened, like, years and years and years ago. But, like, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was only like 7 or 8 years ago, which isn't that long. So like,
Well,
like the yeah.
the
So,
rebellion.
like,
yes.
so, like,
yes. I thought you were saying when they
so like the rebellion itself and then the execution. So like when we read things like this and it's like Markham, a part of me is like, well, maybe it's maybe it's a relative, maybe it's his parent. But I'm like, yeah,
great grandfather.
Like, no, wait.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Happened like 7 years ago, so it's probably him or her, whoever. Him. It isn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah. But it just kind of shows you that, like, not everybody is in on it, which I kind of appreciate. Like, because I think the first time I read it, I was kind of like, everybody's in on it. All the parents and teachers and everybody like that knows everything, but like...
But I mean, I guess we can safely say that Professor Markham is in on it.
No?
But he hears who's Xaden's dad saying did all the bad stuff?
Navir.
Oh, just the kingdom.
The king and all who came before him, like all the kings, I guess.
So, I mean, like,
I guess, are you saying that, like, he knows, so he's saying this to cover it up?
Well, I'm saying, he said he accused the king of doing something so foul that I can't rewrite it. But, like, if he thought it wasn't true, what would be why wouldn't he rewrite it? It smells of a cover-up to me. The fact that he refuses to record it in history means that he's in on it to me.
Oh, I took him at his word. I thought that he was being sincere because, like, I don't know. I don't really know. Oh, I guess you're probably right because it says the book or whatever that it's an excerpt from is Navir, an unedited history. If you're saying it's an unedited history, you should probably say what he... Interesting.
And, like, if you
Okay.
really believed that it wasn't true, then you could have been like, oh my god, can you believe what he thought the king did?
Yeah. I guess you would just be like, oh, the fairy tales that we've heard. He thinks they're real. He's, like, actually...
delusional.
Which, although he did say he lost touch with reality. But, yeah. I don't know.
Anyway.
Don't know. But anyway, it's, just interesting. But that quote is right in the middle of a very important scene, so I don't even think I even read much of it the first time, because I was like, what the fuck? Except for you kind of knew what was happening. Like, you knew that obviously this fairy tale was actually real.
They keep mentioning it over
shit.
And over again, so, like, I feel like there's a little bit of value.
Mm-hmm. Well, then especially after she got her dad's letter, you're like, obviously that's going to be something. But anyway, so Xaden says, what happened to meeting tomorrow? We don't have a full shipment to this griffin rider. And Violet is just looking at the griffins, and she is in shock. And Terrence says, if they try anything, there'll be a snack.
I love it.
I know. He's the best. But she realizes, and so does everybody else, a little bit before her maybe, that Xaden has been helping the Griffin riders, and that's why he's been sneaking off. And, like, it hurts her to the core, figuring that out. So Xaden asks the Griffin riders, like, why they're there, and... they're really snarky, and I don't really get why they need to be so snarky. Like,
yeah, especially if he's helping them. Just be nice people.
Seems so unnecessary.
Yeah.
But basically they say they've come to warn them that they lost a village nearby to a horde of venin 2 days ago. And Violet's just like, venin? They're not real. Is everyone, like, playing a prank on me or something? But Imogen says that venin have never come this far west. So she's like, what the fuck is going on? Everybody seems real cool with this.
Yeah.
They start to say more, And I kind of think that they're about to say that there are wyverns with them. But Xaden stops them, and he says it's in case they end up interrogated, they need to know as little as possible. But they just say that that the Venin are heading north to, like, near Athabin, which is where they're going for their war games, so that is not good. Mm-hmm. But the Griffin Riders say that they are going to help.
That's nice.
And, yeah. Because this is outside of Navir's borders, so it is Peromiel territory, which is where the Griffins...
That's not where Athabin is. Athabin is still in Navarre.
It's outside of the...
It's outside of the wards, but there are unprotected areas of Navarre outside the wards.
Okay, but it's like, I guess it's close to...
Yes, it's close to Peromiel, yes. It's like closer to the border with them, which is why they call it unsafe, because it's close to the border. Has nothing to do in their minds with Venin.
Oh, no. Well, probably does, but...
Not that they're
for the
telling
youngins, it
people.
Shouldn't. Yeah. Yeah. So, Violet then kind of feels something change, and Xaden looks at her, and one of the Griffin Riders says, if you think you'll convince a Sorengale to risk their neck for anyone outside their own borders, you're a fool. And she's just there like, what the fuck, man? You don't
I'm right here.
Know me.
And like, isn't it the Griffin Riders offering to help them? So why are they talking about her helping them when they're helping her? Yeah.
Yeah. It really makes no sense, because like they're just there to go do their war games. They're not there to do anything, or I don't know. They're really antagonistic for no reason, really. Especially since like Xaden is being nice to them. Not really nice. He's helping them, I guess.
Not being an ass.
It's not. Yeah, but they are. Violet's power starts to simmer because she's feeling overwhelmed and cornered, basically. And then they mention how much weaponry the ransom for the daughter of the king's general would buy. And Tairn is obviously insanely annoyed at them. And Violet just says, I dare you. And like lightning flashes above her. And then darkness swarms them. And Xaden says that she's not up for discussion.
Wee!
And they just say... yeah. They just say, let us know if you get away from the disbelievers, and then leave. But I don't really know.
Do they think that, like, Violet just doesn't believe in, like, anything they're saying?
Which, like, at first she doesn't, which is fine. But, like, I just don't understand what they want him to do. Because, like, they go and do what they do after this, and they help. But then the Griffin Riders are like, you should leave, you're gonna die. So, like, what are they even expecting them to do here? Know. It's just, they're just so, like, antagonistic, and I just don't see the point of it. I'm like, why? Anyway, Imogen just says good luck Ryerson and, like, leaves to let him talk to Violet. And Violet tells Tairn that everybody here has a rebellion relic, and she, like, is just realizing that, like, literally every other person except for her has one. And Tairn is just like, yep. And you're like, God damn it, Tairn. And obviously Violet is kind of spiraling because she realizes, like, she fell for Xaden, and he's a traitor, and she's feeling real shitty about all that right now. But Tairn and Andarna lied to her too, and Tairn tells her that there's only one bond more powerful than a dragon and its rider, and obviously it's mates. So the dragon mates trump her relationship, and her heart is like breaking because everybody that she cares about lied to her, and it's only going to get worse. But she feels like she should have known better with Xaden because, like, obviously he has secrets. He has dark powers. But she asks Liam then if they were ever really friends, And he says that they are friends, but he owes Xaden everything. And then he says they all do. And he says he can explain it, but Violet is super pissed. And she pushes him and says he watched her fall for Xaden. And Xaden comes over to, I guess, try to talk to her and says, Violence, let me explain. But she tells him that if he touches her, she will kill him. And lightning goes from like cloud to cloud above her head. And Liam is just like, dude, I think she will. And he just says that he knows. And he says he knows what she's thinking, that he betrayed the kingdom. But she calls him a cliche and a fucking villain hiding in plain sight. And he says he's not a villain to her. And like, I don't mind her figuring this shit out, because I do like that she does it on her own, like, after this part. But I'm like, I don't know. I guess I've never been in a situation like this, but I'm like, I think we can forgive him for not telling you about all of this.
Yeah, I don't know, man. A part of me just feels like this has nothing to do with her. You know what I mean? Like, and I say that in the nicest way possible. But like, obviously his feelings, obviously how he has acted towards her, everything has done for her has nothing to do with this side of him. Like, yes. She is not the country that he is betraying. Like, he is, you know what I mean? Like, and like, I understand he lied to her and blah, blah, blah. And like, he didn't lie. He just didn't tell her. It's a lie by omission. It's a little different.
It's the same as her dragons did. And she forgives them
right.
super quick.
So it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, girl, like, I get it that you're a little upset because he did this stuff without trusting you to tell you. But like, you guys literally just got together. He's not, why would he tell you before now?
And also,
like, maybe he would have told her in the coming weeks if they'd had a chance to, like, be together.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, they were together. Together one night.
Yeah. They've had sex 2 nights.
She was like, I love you. Yeah.
So, like,
and he was avoiding her in between because he knew he wasn't telling her the truth.
So, like, I don't know. I feel like she should probably, you know.
Her anger's in the wrong direction. Yeah. And I think maybe that's what she's going to explore in the next book, because really, like, this is a huge deal for her. It means so much about her mother. Like, that is really the story here. It's not, like, would she have even believed him anyway if he told her? She probably would have just thought he was crazy and lying about her mother. Like, I don't know. But anyway, so she says that she was trained as a scribe, and they've, like, only defended their borders for the last 600 years against the Griffins. And he tells her that they've been giving them weapons to fight the Venin. And of course, they're, like, super specific weapons. But she starts to say that the Venin are fables. But she kind of starts to work it out then. And she thinks of her father's note, which is a big part of it. And Xaden basically tells her that they're real. And she replies, like, people who can tap into the source of magic without a dragon or griffin to channel, corrupting their powers beyond salvation. So that's what the Venin are. Like, not great.
Yeah.
But he says, like, they've drained all the magic out of the barrens, and it's, like, spread like an infestation. And he does tell her, like, this isn't how he wanted to let her know. And she's kind of like, yeah, if you were ever going to tell me. But, like, I think that's a bit short-sighted. Like, he obviously had to. So did Tairn. Would have come up eventually. She asks Tairn if he has any input, but he says he chose her for her intelligence and courage and wants her to come to her own conclusions and not to let him down. Which I kind of like, but I'm also like, dude, you lied too. She kind of starts to ask why the Venin don't attack Navir, but she realizes that the wards that they use make all non-dragon yielding impossible. So, like, Venin wouldn't be able to yield inside of Navir either. So, essentially, she's like, I have to believe that Navir has no idea that poor Miel is being attacked beyond the borders. And then Xaden says, or they know and are doing nothing. Which is obviously the worst of the two cases.
It is. But, like, as of right now, if this is the worst thing they've done...
Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, also the fact that they're sending children off to be... I know they're not children, but they're sending children off to be murdered during war games. But I think this is going to be a hard thing for Violet to, like, wrap her head around because of her upbringing and her mother and all of that. Yeah, so Xaden actually shows her the weapons that work against the Venin, and it's the same thing that powers the wards, which is why there have been so many raids. Obviously, the Griffins are trying to get the material that powers the wards to kill the Venin, and he hands her an alloy embedded dagger with runes on it, and she saw one on her mother's desk, so we kind of are like, her mother has a weapon against the Venin, her mother knows about them. So that's unfortunate, and she has to wrestle with that now. But she doesn't really even wrestle with it. I think she needs some time to think, which she doesn't get. And that's the issue.
I don't, like, hearing all of this, I wouldn't have to think that hard. You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah, yes, but you'd have to come to the conclusion that your mother and father both knew about this and hid it. And, like, she loves her father. And, like, what does that say about him? And, like, that means that her mother went and let her brother die, even though he was her favorite. And, like, it's just not great. But she doesn't even really get a chance to think about all that stuff because she's just so mad at Xaden at the moment. Like, I just think she needs some time to think, and we don't get that in this book. But I think her biggest issue is going to be realizing that her family and everyone she trusts on that side of things is actually shitty. Yeah. So he basically lets her keep the dagger because she should be
safe.
Yeah, whatever words are, able to protect herself.
So do we know do they just call it an alloy, or is it like a specific...
The one he handed her was exactly like the one she saw on her mother's desk, so it's an alloy dagger with runes on it.
Because it's an alloy...
I'm assuming the runes are...
just like a combination metal?
I don't know. I'm assuming the runes are important.
Maybe.
But I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know. I was like, this seems like it should be something more. But I assume, like, maybe the runes have something to do with the dragon magic, because, like, why would that be what they use to power their wards? So I don't really understand it. He basically tells her that he never lied to her, but she says he twisted the truth, which I guess is true. And he tells her that he should have told her earlier, but he's risking everything now to let her know, since her best friend could take the memory and then everything would be lost. And she says, like, he didn't give her a chance. Like, she also doesn't believe that Dain would do that. And he wouldn't put the, right? He wouldn't put the codex above people suffering. And then she also says, like, she could have learned to ward the memory, but he didn't trust her.
No. Like,
I know. And that's why later when she realizes what happens, I'm like, clearly
he was right.
You couldn't. Yes. Which is why I'm like, she just needs some time to think about this, because she needs to get her head on straight. And obviously she doesn't in this book, which I am mad about. I get her being pissed, but I'm also like, just chill for a bit. Have a cup of tea.
I mean, they're in the middle of the outdoors wilderness. I don't think tea is something they can freely...
Yeah, I know. Well, you can pick some good old Labrador tea. And
I guess.
Anyway, so he kind of says what we're saying. He says, like, this is bigger than them. It's bigger than their relationship. Like, he watched his father die, and he didn't want to lose her. And he says, like, she loves him, but she cuts in and says, loved. And he shouts, you love me. And everybody there is just like, whoa,
yeah, just
what is happening?
But, like, it's true. Like, she can't not love him. Like, it's not gone.
Immediate, yeah. I get what she's feeling, but, yeah.
I think she's just, like,
she can't keep saying it.
It just really, especially, you're going to say what you're going to say now, so say it. And I'm just going to have feelings about it.
Yeah. She says everything she felt was based on secrets and deception, and he says that it's real.
No. I don't believe that. I do not agree. I disagree. Like, all he did was fib about where he was going.
But, like, he didn't. Because he just told her that he couldn't tell her.
Okay, yeah.
And then, yeah, he didn't say. He said he couldn't tell her where he was going, and then she asked, and he was like, fine, I went here.
But you can't ask me why. And
she was like, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, I'm very annoyed because she's like, everything was based on secrets and deception. And it's like, no, it wasn't. But it wasn't. Insane sexual chemistry that was there the whole time. Him leaving you, like, a little jar of violets. Like, that he wasn't doing that to lie to you or to deceive you. You know what I mean? Like,
I do.
Him being sad about his dad being dead and you comforting him. Obviously, that was not a lie. So, like, I feel like she's focusing on the wrong things. And, like, I agree with him. It's bigger than them. Like, what he is doing, I don't believe, and might get a lot of hate for this. I don't believe that what he's doing has anything to do with her. Like, I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Like, just because he's doing this doesn't mean that, like, it doesn't mean that their relationship is a lie.
Yeah.
It's like saying that, like, oh, hey, like, this guy is a hockey player, and he's a hockey player, and, he's got a girlfriend, and the girlfriend being like, I can't believe you didn't tell me you were a hockey player. Everything was a lie. Like, it has, one doesn't have anything to do with the other.
No. You're also missing the fact that he is a traitor against their kingdom, and she is the daughter of a general to the king of the kingdom. Like, it's not, it would be if her father or mother were a hockey manager and the hockey player boyfriend was
on the other team.
Yeah. And it was Romeo and Juliet. This analogy's not working. But we can't just say it has nothing to do with her. Like, her entire upbringing, her entire life, everything is about the kingdom. Like, the propaganda of this kingdom, like, everybody goes to this battle school to be in the army, to fight against the Griffins. And he's working with the Griffins.
Yeah, but she's already learned that he's doing it because they're under siege by mystical creatures.
She's learning. She still doesn't, like, if you're like, this is like, what fairy tales did we read as children? But, like, this would be like if you were, like, told now that dragons are outside of our borders killing people. And you're like, dragons aren't real. I think you're a bit crazy. And then you're working it through in your head and you're like, oh, this makes a bit of sense. But you're still pissed that the person didn't tell you. But she's not, like, she's getting there. But she's not, like, 100% there yet. She's like, this is insane. You're all crazy. This is a prank. Anyway. I do think that she needs time to think it through, because, like, once she really realizes that, hey, they're killing people, this is awful, and, like, her mother and the king are hiding it from everybody, I think she'll figure her shit out. Although we'll definitely have, like, a full fucking book of them not being together because of annoying shit, but Anyway, she does say, like, she believes him, but that doesn't mean she trusts him anymore. I also think that part is a bit of immaturity. Like, everything's not black and white about trust, and relationships have so many layers, which I think, like, I don't think you can just be like, I don't trust anything you say anymore because of this one thing that you had to keep a secret because I could easily have gone to my mother and then she would have killed you. So anyway, they all leave for Athenbine, and she kind of chats with her dragons, and she can feel their guilt, which kind of helps her overcome her anger at them. And Terrence says, like, he won't lie to keep her safe again. So, like, she basically just immediately forgives both of them.
Fuming. I'm fuming.
Yeah, I just think that they need to have a conversation, and they didn't get time. They didn't get time to have it, a real one. After she, like, needs to chill out from her original moment, she needs to see that Venin are real, and then have that conversation.
Just like, I feel like I need to meditate to calm down. I'm so
That's
angry at this whole situation. She has the perfect man, and she's like, you lied to me. Me.
You're a traitor against our kingdom. She is kind of thinking to herself now about everything, because, like, this is, if she's gonna believe that Venin are real, it's really, like, wild, I'll say. But she does realize, like, the archives only have texts from the last 400 years, and in her father's note, it says it only takes one desperate generation to change history. So, like, he was trying to, like, set her up for finding out.
So, like, what?
So that she would
410 believe. Years ago, they changed history.
Yeah, well, so 600 years ago was when, I guess, Navir became. There's 200 years of history missing.
Interesting.
So from 600 years ago to 400 years ago.
Oh my god.
So,
oh my god. I have a thing. What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet?
I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what I want to bet because I don't know what you're saying.
What do you want to bet?
That you're right about something? I can't bet anything. I bet you a coffee. A Starbucks.
That the general is actually like 600 years old, and he was in charge of erasing all those histories, like him with the crazy dragon, the black one.
Melgreen?
Yeah. Either that or the king, but I have a feeling it's going to be Melgreen.
That is actually immortal?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we don't
how
know.
Venin...
Like, do the dragons...
Oh, extend lives?
Yeah. Like, that could be
could
normal.
Be, but we're killing them off.
We are.
Although, like, remember, what was her name? Amelie's dad? He was still alive. What happens with their dragons when they retire? Do their dragons also retire and just wait for for him to die of old age before they take a new rider? Can they sever the bond like early and be like, "You're retiring? Okay, I'll go get someone new now."
Yeah, but if they severed the bond, the rider would die.
But what if?
I would think
if it was like a consensual severing.
It's not funny. Consent is great.
No, but like if both of them just agreed, like, hey, we just need to see other people. Yeah.
See other people. Let's open this relationship up. I don't know. I don't know what happens there, because it's the same as, like, the healer guy but he still uses his dragon's magic to heal. He's just at the campus.
Right, so where's his dragon? And then that throws a wrench into our...
His dragon has to be at the campus, because he's using the power. But then that
throws in... Oh, okay. I'm just saying, it throws a wrench into our whole, like, dragons need to be close to the riders theory.
Yeah, well, he must be staying at the campus.
The dragon would be pissed.
Well, he gets to stay in the Vale, and maybe he'll have a little baby. Or play with the babies. Yeah, I don't know.
There's too many questions.
I don't want somebody to be 600 years old.
I do.
That's fair. I just think it's like done a lot. Although it'd be kind of cool if it's like a for real villain that is 600 years old and like we get to watch him die. Like I'd be cool.
That's
with that.
what I'm thinking. Like I'm thinking he's gonna pull like a Duke Parrington situation, but like not a demon,
different body,
not a demon in Duke Parrington, but like if Duke Parrington was the bad guy.
Yeah, okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Because, like, everyone suspects the king is the supremo bad guy. I'm going with, no, it's the General Melgreen guy. And he's been, like, secretly controlling the king for generations. All the kings.
I could see that. Yeah, because, like, he's the shitty person, and he was, I could see him being, like, the bad guy. Yeah. I get what you're saying. I thought you were trying to say, like...
Telling you, somebody needs to refer back to these podcasts for all of my amazing predictions when they turn out to be true.
Yeah, in, like, 6 years when we have all the books.
Mark your calendars, people.
Probably only... Maybe 3. Maybe
Mark
only
the
3
calendars.
years. Yeah. Yes. So...
It's like, where were we?
What were we saying? So they get to the outpost, but it's empty, which is not good and very odd. And Xaden tells them like to divide and search, and Violet obviously to stay with him. And Violet says like this is one of the most strategic garrisons that they man, and they wouldn't abandon it for war games. And Xaden's like, that's what I'm worried about. He asks her if she told Dain about Athen Bean, this place, and she says she never hid anything from him, unlike him. Like, she's making a dig at him, and it's just such shitty timing, because he's like, he asks if Dain touched her face, and she just says he always touches her like that, and she would know if he saw her memories, but Xaden says she wouldn't know. And she, like, is trying to say she can't believe that he would take it, but then she remembers that, like, Dain tried to take her memory. Without asking about Amber. And she's like, fuck, maybe he would. I'm like, yeah, here it is. But Xaden finds a note from Colonel Atos, which is obviously Dain's father, and it says that they need to survive if they can. And Violet realizes that Dain did this, and that, like, she kind of starts feeling like it's her fault.
It is.
Because Dain took her memory. Yeah. And Xaden says it's not her fault, but that, like, they were basically sent here to die. I think this needs to be a bigger part. Like, I think she needs to feel more about this. And I think like,
she needs to apologize to Xaden about being like, you didn't trust me. I could have guarded my memories. No, you fucking couldn't.
Well, she didn't know she had to then. If he had told her everything, she might have been able to, like, put a block in place. Obviously, she's going to have to do that about all of this if she ends up back at school.
If. Come on, we read that excerpt.
Well, I know, but I was trying to be nice to our listeners.
I mean...
if they didn't. Yeah. But yeah, I think that there's going to be more to this. Like, she has to confront her relationship with her mother, with Dain. She needs to confront her relationship with her sister. Like, how much does her sister know? Like, there is so many things that we need to see her deal with. And then I think she's finally going to be like, oh, Xaden, I'm sorry. I hope. And I hope it doesn't take that long. But anyway, Taryn tells her that something is off in the valley below. And we don't really know what that means. And that's about it about that until the end of the book. But the letter that Xaden got gave him a choice. So they can either abandon the village of their enemy to be destroyed, or abandon command of his wing in the war games. And if they leave right now and abandon this town, they could get to the war games in time. You're like, this is an insane choice.
So essentially let all the people in that town die to go play a game, or save those people. And essentially, like, I feel like it's kind of like, it's kind of like offering them and being like, or else we'll know you're traitors. You know what I mean? Like, either come to the Warren Games and like pretend like nothing happened and like you can keep going about your like merry little lives, or if you choose to stay and fight, we're gonna know that you guys are traitors.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny because you're like, what if Xaden had taken like anybody else other than the people he took? Like, what if he took people that weren't rebellion?
But like,
kids?
I thought they weren't supposed to gather in groups of more than 3.
They're not, but that's why, like, during the chaos of the war games, he got to pick who went, and then he picked his group and they ran away before anyone could say no. So, realistically, he should have only had, like, 3 of them, and then everybody else should have been just a rando. And then what would they have done? Like, he wouldn't be able to say, oh, they're testing me. And then all these other people, I feel like they didn't really think it through. And also Violet's there. Like, her mother really doesn't give a fuck about her. Neither does Dain. Just saying, I'll miss you. Like, send her to die. Like, oh, you chose him. You can go die. Hey, I need him to get his in the next book.
I know. He really does. I wish she just chopped his penis off. That's what I want.
I hope she doesn't get that close to his penis.
Or Taryn, like, slices it off with a claw.
If she's only up to his ankle, his claw is too big. Oh, God. My head went to that Robert North. To that, no, who was it? Jesus.
It's definitely not him.
What's her name? No, that's not what I meant to say. I tried to say Nora Roberts, but it wasn't who I was talking about. Anyway, the author that did the dragon and the dragon.
Katie Roberts.
Katie Robert. And I'm like, now I can't talk about dicks and dragons because I can't.
For anyone listening,
the dragon is too big.
If you haven't read The Dragon's Bride by Katie Robert, you should go out and purchase it. Because this dragon man has 2 penises. And he uses them to have sex with his bride, who is a human woman. Yeah. So,
anyway.
I wonder if it's Scaly.
If his penis is scaly? I doubt it.
Like a dragon penis? You don't think it would be scaly?
No, because I kind of feel
like... You don't think it would be skin, the like way humans are?
I think it would be kind of like dragons would probably be naked most of the time. What do you mean
probably?
And I feel like it would probably be...
I feel like we can say definitely. I don't think they make...
I think he wears clothes in the book.
The dragon does not wear clothes. Oh, you mean in the Katie Robert book. Okay.
Yes. I thought we were talking about his dick. But I feel like...
I think... Can I just say, I think the correct terminology is dicks.
True. I feel like they stay close to the body. And
pop
then
out?
They, like, come out from the scales. And it's not, like... Skin, but I kind of imagine, like, how gross a horse's dick looks.
Have
you never seen a horse?
I've never seen...
a male horse?
No, I've never looked. I've been around horses. I haven't looked.
If one was out, you would notice it. You should look it up.
I don't think I will.
I'll send you a picture someday.
You don't have to. Can you imagine if I'm just in school and all of a sudden I get like a horse's penis?
Big ol' horses, Don. Yeah, they're very prominent, and if one was out, I think you would notice. Anyway, Liam can see a Venom walking towards the gates, and he just like slams his staff and it destroys the gate. I think there's like 3 or 4 of them. Bodhi wants to go down, but Xaden kind of stops them, and he says, like, this isn't a game. They could all die, and, like, he isn't there as a leader. They're all, like, kind of on the same page. Violet then says, at least there aren't wyverns there, and no one knows what she's on about. And you're like, great.
I feel like she needs to knock on wood there.
Thing to say. Yeah, right? But she says they were created to compete with dragons and griffins, and like the venom channel into them instead of them channeling into the person. And you're like, make the connection here so we don't have to almost die. But no, can't do that. So there are 4 venom, there are 10 of them, and there are 7 griffin flyers. And one of the griffin flyers shows up and tells them that she isn't going to ask them to fight. The rest of her drift is making their peace with their gods, and she actually wants them to leave. She says, like, 2 venom took down 2 drifts of griffin and a whole city. So, like, fighting is basically death. Imogen says, like, they have dragons, though, but she says the dragon's fire can't kill venom. And this one flyer thanks Xaden for keeping them alive these last months, and, like, then she tells them to leave, and she goes on to fight with her drift.
How many griffins are in a drift, do you think? For 2 venom
I just
to take down 2 drifts plus a city? That's like, I wonder how many...
Well, this drift has 7, I guess, but I feel like anything over 1 dragon can...
1 griffin?
Like 1 griffin is called a drift. It's just, like, what you call a group of them. But, like, even if it was 2 7s, like, that's insane. Yeah. And, like, yeah, so it's not good. Xaden says that Scaly has never run from a fight, and he isn't leaving, but he can't order them to join. And he's responsible for all of them, and they all crossed the parapet because of his deal, not because they wanted to. So he forced him into the quadrant, but he won't force them to fight here. But one by one, they all agree, and Liam says he watched his parents die doing the right thing, so he likes to think his death would be just as honorable. Violet kind of asks Taryn what he's thinking, because she's like, it's not just her choice to decide if she wants to fight.
Yeah.
Like, it's his too. And he says they will feast on their bones, and like, she doesn't want to leave innocent people or her squad to die. And she kind of thinks back to the flyer that said, like, she didn't believe a Sorengale would fight, and she's just thinking, like, she's glad that Rhiannon and Sawyer and Riddick aren't here, and they'll make it to second year. And she thinks to herself, she knows that, I guess her name is Mira, but I've been saying Myra the whole time, so sorry. But she knows that Mira would understand. And I'm like, do we think she will? Because I feel like she's probably
all Mira. No, but I think if she says, like, I was trying to save innocent people, I think Mira would understand that. But I also think Mira would be like, no, you need to get yourself safe. Like, I feel like Mira would be like, leave them all to die and get yourself safe. But I think secretly she would understand, but I think on the surface she'd be like, no.
I just wonder, like, we're assuming she doesn't know about all of this.
Correct. Or, well,
so,
I mean, she's one of the fighters. Like, you would think that when they're fighting, they would know.
But she did say that she saw a grift of what she thought were dragons that didn't make sense. And, like, she doesn't hear things that are above her pay grade or whatever. So, like, I feel like she doesn't know. I just don't know how she would react if she were told. Like, Violet has a lot of faith that she would do the same thing, but I'm just like, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And then she obviously thinks of her mother too, but her mother obviously has to know about this and has done nothing. And she's like, cool, I'm going to fight too. Liam reports that 7, and then he says now 6 of the flyers are engaged, so I assume that 1 is already dead. Like, that was real fast. But they're trying to keep the weird fire that the venom wield away from civilians. And 3 are kind of surrounding the city, and 1 is going to a clock tower in kind of the middle of the city. And Xaden divides them all, but the only way to kill the venom are with the daggers they have. So that's obviously going to be hard on the backs of dragons. So they're probably going to have to get off. They all go to their dragons, and Sgaeyl kind of has a moment with Violet, and she says she knew Violet would make the right choice, and Xaden did too. She also says that Violet is a far away from the girl, the girl that she was after the parapet, and that she approves. And Violet just says she didn't ask for her approval, and I kind of like this. Like, I like Violet like getting into her own and having the confidence to be like, I don't.
But like,
need your approval.
I also feel like she's still mad at Sgaeyl, because Sgaeyl's one of the ones who Sgaeyl's the one who told Tairn and Darna by proxy, like, don't tell Violet about this. Like, so I feel like she's still a little pissed at her.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they decided as a group not to tell her. I don't think that Sgaeyl was like, don't tell her. Because Tairn has been fighting this battle the entire time he's been alive.
I guess.
So I don't, like, I think he made a poor decision. I don't really blame Sgaeyl. But maybe she does blame Sgaeyl. I don't know. Violet goes to talk to Indarna and tells her that she needs to stay behind, and she tells her that she'll feel the moment when there's nothing left, and she needs to fly no matter how bad it feels, and it's just heartbreaking. Because she's obviously talking about, like, the moment she dies, Indarna needs to, like...
fly away.
She needs to fly away, and she needs to be okay enough to fly away. And I'm like, I don't think Indarna's going to be okay enough to fly away if you die, man. Like, that's not a good strategy. But she needs to get behind the wards, basically. Violet sees a dragonfly nearby, but knows that no one else should be here, and it shoots blue fire and only has 2 legs.
What?
What could it be? So it's obviously a wyvern, and Tairn tells her, like, they've created an abomination, and he has suspected that they did, but didn't know. Which I just think is interesting. So, like, is this new? Because clearly he kind of makes it out like he's been fighting before. I just don't really understand. Like, wyverns might be new, but then also they're in the fairy tale books from ages ago. I don't know. Xaden comes over and gives her another dagger, and she asks if he's going to tell her to stay behind, but he knows that she won't, and he says he tries to pick fights he knows he can win. But she asks about General Milgreen, on the topic of knowing he can win, because General Milgreen's supposed to be able to know what happens in a battle before the battle happens. That's like his signet or whatever. But the rebellion relics actually block him knowing the outcome of a battle with people that have the rebellion relics. Ooh. So General Milgreen, like, he basically shot himself in the foot by giving them these relics. Because it was his idea all along, and now he's blocking what he can see, so it's real dumb.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's his
obviously,
own fault.
He didn't know that was going to happen.
But, like, this is what happens when you try and punish children.
Exactly.
Karma. Karma, General. Karma.
It is. It is karma. Karma is a dragon. She asks if there are any other secrets that Xaden's keeping from her, and he says yes, and to stay alive, and he'll tell her whatever she wants.
I love it so much.
I love that. I'm like, I love how real he is in that moment. I'm like, I love it. And she tells him she needs him to survive, even if she hates that she loves him. So they obviously mount and fly off, and Tairn tells her, like, he feels something in the trading post, and, like, all of the dragons can feel it. And then they see the venom on top of the clock tower, and they go for him, and Tairn uses his fire and destroys the clock tower, but obviously not him, because we were literally just told that fire doesn't work on them, so I don't know why they thought that would work. A wyvern cuts in front of them, and it's a different one. There are now multiple wyvern around. And Tairn is relaying orders to all of the dragons and all of the griffins, so he's like the leader of all of these animals.
Okay.
Flying.
Here's my question. So, like,
Yes.
Dragonfire doesn't kill the venom, right? What if a dragon ate one?
I assume it
Why
would
can't
kill them.
like, Terran is gigantic. Why can't he just go... But, like, why can't he just, like, shoot his fire as a distraction and then go chomp chomp, nom nom nom?
Yeah, or just bite
Or
them in
that.
half.
I'm easy either way.
I know, you know what I think of when I think of eating them? I think of Lysandra in that scene where, like, when she throws it all up.
Only this time he would throw it up
like
and then it would, like, knit itself back together and be like, woo!
Well, maybe. Maybe they're already dead. I don't know. I guess, could they, like, steal your magic from inside of you if you tried to eat them?
That sounds very far-fetched.
I don't know anything about them.
I don't...
Like, are they just Frankensteins?
No,
Are they all zombies?
I'm assuming we'll get more.
Oh, we will. Actually, not that long, but still. So Garrick and Bodhi are helping to evacuate, and Xaden asks her and Liam to help with cover, and Soleil is a third year that's there. I think she's a third year, but it's another girl that's there. And Liam are, like, off their dragons and, like, getting people to the entrance of a mine. And a venom is approaching. So Violet is trying to hit it with her lightning, but she can't really aim, which we already knew. But, like, she's trying. That's good.
Sorry.
The venom...
Just the fact that she can't aim.
Okay.
Like, this... She needs more training, man.
She does. And she says it, too. She's like, shit. Like, if she actually had training, she would be kicking ass. But it's not great. The venom, like, are destroying the place and trying to kill all these people. I don't really know why they need to kill all these, like, civilians. It just seems unnecessary, but go off. But then the venom starts channeling from the earth, and, like, the grass starts to die around it in a circle, and it's growing outwards and outwards, and, like, Violet can see a man has collapsed and he turns into a husk inside of this growing circle. And she starts to yell, but it's too late because Soleil and Fuel, her dragon.
Fuel? That's fun.
Both. I don't know if that's right. I think it's Fuil.
F-U.
I don't know if that's right either.
Fuel?
Anyway, they both
Fuel?
end up inside of this circle.
Sorry, I'm still on it. Fuel?
Okay. I don't even know if I wrote the name down right.
Who knows?
But they both die, so that's real bad. But I don't think it's super surprising. Obviously the venom is taking magic from everything in this circle, so, like, if you touch it, it's going to take the magic from you, and then you're just a husk. 2 griffins and Liam end up killing a wyvern. And a wyvern and venom are going by a building with explosives. So Taryn ends up lighting it on fire, but they lived through it because we knew they would. But they need to get the wyvern out of town to give the people a chance. But they're clearly looking for something, and it's the same thing that's feeling weird to the dragons, that we don't know what it is. So Violet tries to draw them out with her lightning, since she knows they see her lightning as a threat. So she goes over and, like, throws a whole bunch of lightning into the air, and then the wyverns swarm to them, and she tries again and again to hit them, and she says she lets down a wall between her and Terrance's power, and she finally ends up hitting one, but there are so many more wyvern than venom, so, like, they don't know if a rider dies. Like, obviously, if you kill a dragon, the rider dies. So she's like, she hit a wyvern, and she's like, is a venom gonna die? It's so hard to tell.
Right.
There's so many, we don't know who's right. Like, the rider might not be here, is what she's kind of thinking. Anyway, the reader gets it before this point. And I'm like, why can't she get it? But they go, like, around, and she tries so many times, and she does end up killing another wyvern, and Xaden and Bodhi's dragons take out 2 more, and then she sees Xaden jump off Sigale's back and use his shadows to hide the people evacuating, but a wyvern goes for him, and she screams out, But, like, he already knows. But during that moment of her being afraid for him, she isn't paying attention to herself and Taryn. And Xaden ends up yelling to her, beneath you, to her. And they have to bank to stop blue fire from, like, singeing Taryn. And it's about to come at Taryn again, but Scaly, like, barrels through and into it and stops it. And she, like, glares at Violet in kind of a, like, Violet is there to watch Taryn's back. Scaly is gonna watch Xaden's back. Also, he's gonna watch his own. But, like, it's obviously hard. Like, they've never been in battles. Like, you can't really expect her to know what to do. Like, this is a lesson she needs to learn, but it's unfortunate. And obviously super hard.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like she's being harsh.
Yeah. She sees then that Liam needs help. There's a wyvern and a venom on his tail. And he runs down his dragon Dain's back and gets flicked into the air and lands on the wyvern and slits the venom's throat. So that's a venom dead. Like, we're down one of them.
How many were there? 4?
Yeah,
there's 3.
The wyvern drops out of the air, and Liam jumps, and Dain catches him. So he killed a venom, and then the wyvern drops. Interesting. Another wyvern comes. I know. Another wyvern comes towards them, and Taryn splits him open with his claws and tail. And Violet starts to think, like, maybe they will survive this. But then a wyvern dives at Dain and attacks Dain before... A wyvern dives at them, and Dain attacks it before it can hit Taryn. And Liam ends up falling off because he hadn't gotten a chance to situate himself. And Violet, like, grabs him and puts her... Like, her shoulders pop out of...
Yeah. Yes. Pops out the socket.
Yeah. While she's grabbing him. Yeah. But Liam pulls himself up and she wraps the saddle belt around him to keep him on. But Dain is now in a fight with the wyvern that was flying at them. And Dain is losing. And Taryn can't get to him. And Violet asks Xaden to help. But he's like, if I leave here, all the civilians are going to die. So they're basically on their own. Another wyvern flies towards them and Taryn rips out his throat. And Xaden says he's on the way, but Liam tells her that she needs to take out the riders. And she says she knows. And he tries to say something else, but they're thrown sideways. And you're like, damn it! Why couldn't he tell her? But Dain screeches then, and the wyvern roars in victory, and they both crash into the hillside together. And the wyvern limps away, but Dain doesn't move. And Violet can, like, hear Taryn and Andarna cry out. And Taryn tells her she only has a few minutes. And she knows she needs to get Liam today because...
Why?
Liam is going to die now. Because the dragon died, and if a dragon dies, the rider dies. Which is wild. Because, like, he's a perfectly healthy, super strong man, and now he is gonna die because his dragon died. So, they slide down Taryn's leg, but Liam literally can't make it. He, like, she catches him as much as she can, but he falls to the ground, and he tells her it's all right. And then he tells her to watch out for his sister Sloane, and she promises that she will. And he tells her that Xaden needs her, so she should hear him out, and she agrees, and she thanks him for everything. And he says that it's his honor. And I just love him so much. It's so sad.
Yeah, I don't like it. Like, Liam is like our precious little baby boy, and I just don't want him to die.
I know. I just don't understand why he has to.
I know, because the sweetest one of them all always is like the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. But Xaden rushes over and, like, picks up Liam, body and bones, and carries him over to die. And Dain
next to Dain.
Die would be a terrible
Carries him
name.
over to die next to Dain. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And then Violet looks up and sees dozens of wyvern coming towards them and hears Xaden yell in her head, and she knows that Liam is dead now. And it is just heartbreaking. I'm going to say I didn't cry when I was reading it, but I was very sad. Xaden runs towards her then and tells her that Liam said there are 2 riders with that horde that just showed up, I guess, the horde of the 12. And she needs to go after the riders. But there are still 3 riders alive.
Shit.
Yeah. And she's like, why is he telling me I need to go after them? And Xaden's like, because he needs to hold the wyvern off. So she needs to go after the riders, and he's going to go after the wyvern. Xaden says he has faith in her, and he yanks her close and kisses her head and says there's no me without you.
Sorry. I love it so much. I love it so much.
And then he says, I do too. He says he'll give her as much time as possible, like keep the wyvern away. And she knows then that they are all going to die. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, they're all going to their death right now. And that Xaden will probably be the first of them to die. Which sucks. So Violet and Terra get in the air, and Violet unleashes, and she ends up killing a wyvern, but another comes at them, and a venom lands on Terran's back and stabs Terran with a sword behind his wing. And Terran, like, rolls, but the venom stays on by holding onto the sword. And, like, their feet are, like, swinging out behind them. It's awful. And Violet knows, in her head, she knows she's missing something, but she's obviously in the middle of a fight right now, and she can't figure it out. So she knows that she needs to, like, get this venom off of Terran's back. So she unclips herself and goes after the venom, and they fight, and she thinks, like, all of her challenges have led up to this. But she has to use her arm to stop a punch to the face, and it snaps a bone in her arm, which is not great. And the venom is, like, unnaturally quick at adapting and knowing her moves, and Violet is on the defense, which is not good if you want to win. And the venom stabs her in the side with a green-tipped dagger, and when she Violet pulls it out, but something feels really wrong, and the dagger isn't green-tipped anymore.
Yikes.
I don't mean to laugh at that, but it's just
obvious. Yeah.
We know what that means. But she feels like a burning moving through her, but she obviously can't do much about it right now because the venom is still right there. But the venom tells her there's so much untapped power Violet could command the sky to surrender all its power. And she wants to take Violet back to split her open and see where the lightning is coming from. And then she mentions letting her sage, like, take a look at her instead of her doing it. And Violet's like, oh, she's a student too. So, like, this group of venom also have, like, a situation.
What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? That it's somebody she's already met, and it's like, or like somebody that she sort of secretly knows, or something. I'm convinced. I do,
you think? But they can't have, like, the red.
I don't know.
Like, all the venom have, like,
I don't know. That's just my predicament. Or she's gonna or this sage is gonna end up being like Violet's, like, antithesis, and, like, they're gonna have, like, a epic battle at the end. Yeah.
Book 5. Yeah. Obviously, everybody that is part of her bond knows that she was stabbed and is hurt. And Violet ends up telling Xaden through the bond that the venom is too fast, and he tells her to level the playing field. And then his shadows spread over Terran's back, and Violet knows Terran's back, and she also has lightning. So she lights the sky up for a second, and the venom is obviously disoriented, and she ends up being able to stab them in the ribs. So 2 venom down.
4.
Yeah.
2 left? No.
Yeah.
No?
Yes.
There was 5. There was 4 originally, and then 2 showed up, so that's 6.
I think it was 2. 1. Yeah, Liam killed 1, so she just killed 1.
4 left.
I think there was only. I don't think 2 more showed up. I just think the 2 original ones owned the horde.
I understand.
Yeah. But I don't know, like, I feel like Liam could tell who was connected. Like, I wonder if that's something that he could...
Maybe.
Because that's kind of what confused me.
How did he know?
Is, like, how did he know? And I wonder if, like, his dragon could tell there was connections.
I don't know.
But
what his
know,
power was just farsight, wasn't it? Yes. Yeah. Unless his farsight had expanded into, like, being able to see things that weren't in plain sight. So he could see, like, maybe connections.
The bonds, yeah. Maybe. It's also, like, maybe 2 more did come, but I do only remember hearing about 2 more deaths. So I kind of assumed it was only 4 total. But she tells Xaden that, like, she got it, so the shadows disappear, and she stumbles to her saddle, holding her side, and 3 wyvern fall from the sky, and Violet realizes, like, this is what Liam was trying to tell her. They have to kill the venom, because that will kill their wyvern. So, like, the venom's power goes into the wyvern. They're channeling that way. So if the venom dies, the wyvern die. So this one venom that she killed had 3 wyvern. No, it's unfortunate. And Xaden is struggling to hold them back, but Violet tells him, like, there's a new plan now, and to let the shadows fall, and he kind of fights against her, and Darna is kind of trying to come help too, because she knows that everything is awful. And Scaly is, like, screaming in fear, Violet thinks, and Violet tells Xaden, like, if he's ever trusted her to, like, stop with his shadows now, and she knows she needs to take down the more powerful venom that's left. So if there are 2 left, like, she needs to take down the more powerful one, and then Xaden can take down the last one. Taryn tells her which one is the more powerful of the 2, and she tells Taryn that the venom said she could command the sky, but she's going to need every ounce of his power. And obviously she, again, tries and tries and tries, but ends up missing. And she asks Taryn for more power, but he doesn't want to let another rider die because they don't know their limits. And she says she does, but she's like, I do know my limits. But then as she's getting this power, that he's like, fine, I'll let you have more. Like, her heart jolts and she starts to get super hot. And you're like, are you sure you know your limits? Because this is not what you're supposed to be feeling,
but at the same time, I do feel like maybe she would have, like, not gotten too hot when, like, considering the fact that she's poisoned. Like, I feel like that's playing into it.
That's a big, yeah, of course. And Darna is, like, begging to help still, and Violet says only what she needs, so they stop time, and the venom don't stop. Like, they use magic too, so they're able to, like, they're slowly moving towards them, even though time has stopped. The venom can still kind of move a bit. But Violet lights the entire sky up with lightning, and lightning just goes everywhere, but with the time stopped, it's not really moving. So she's just, like, trying to get one tendril of all the lightning in the entire sky to move towards this venom. And she's taking more power and more power from Taryn. And Xaden is yelling in her head, but she, like, completely ignores him. And she takes the shot, and, like, she lets go of Vandarna's powers, and obviously the lightning does hit the venom, which kills it, which is great. I'm glad that actually works, because that'd be real shitty if it didn't.
Yep.
But over half the wyverns fall from the sky, but the other venom is coming for her, and Xaden grabs him with his shadows, and then pulls the venom onto his knife.
Amazing. Why couldn't he do that earlier?
Like, if it's that easy, well, yeah. I just feel like, why didn't he do that with all of them? So then all the other wyvern are obviously going to die too, which is good. But once she sees the knife go in, she knows, like, everybody's gonna live. So she just lets go, and she ends up, like, falling off of Taryn. And Xaden is screaming her name, and Taryn is racing for her, but she can't feel the bond, and she can't access the archives of her power. So, like, she is completely blind right now of any bond. And Darna stops time again and, like, flies under her, but she's, like, too small to really hold her up. So, like, she's kind of just, like, slowly trying to bring her down,
just break her fall,
just crashing. Yeah. And Violet ends up slipping off her back into Xaden's arms, and he tells her to fight, but then she just passes out. She wakes up, but she can't do anything. Like, she can't move, she can't open her eyes, she's just there, and she can just hear people talking. And they're trying to decide what to do with her. Like, her blood is black, and Basgaeth is over 12 hours away. So, like, she obviously won't make it
to the healers,
that long. She would die. Yeah. Xaden says there's somewhere closer, but then Garrick says it'll put everything at risk. But Taryn, like, bellows at Garrick, and Garrick's just like, he's just warning Xaden what's at risk. And Imogen says if Violet dies, Xaden might die too, so, like, this is a big deal. But Xaden says he doesn't care what happens to him. And you're like, she has to hear this. But she's gonna fucking forget it all, and I'm gonna be so pissed. So he goes to, like, take her on to the back of his dragon, but she passes out again because she's being jostled and it's painful. She wakes up again during the flight, but she can't speak, and she is able to open her eyes, but she just sees the mountains. She's then, as they're, like, getting off the dragon, she's woken up again, and they're arguing over if this is the best idea, but they're on the ground and Taryn roars, and Xaden says he's saying he'll cook him alive if he fails. Yeah. Which is fair.
Do we know who's talking there? Like, is it just Xaden and Garrick? Or we don't? It is.
At that point, it is, yeah. Yeah. I think Bodhi might say something, but, like, it's not until after this. But Xaden tells her she has to fight, and she can hate him when she wakes up. But none of it is worth it without you. And she almost believes him, and I'm like, you should just believe him! I'm gonna flip this fucking desk! And then someone familiar calls out, but she can't place it. And Xaden says you have to save her. And you're like, who could it be?
Yes.
So then we're at the last chapter. And the quote of the chapter is Fen Ryerson's last word, "You're all cowards." And it's redacted, of course. But this chapter is actually in Xaden's point of view, which is interesting.
It just makes me super excited for this special edition, because we're going to get 2 chapters in Xaden's point of view, and I'm really excited for it.
Oh, I listened to this part in the audiobook of his point of view, and the guy talking, I was like, oh my god, it's so much hotter. Because the rest of the book is in, obviously a woman is speaking, but yeah.
Lovely.
Anyway, I just love it. So it's been 3 days, and Violet hasn't woken up, and Xaden is thinking, like, she's never looked frail or fragile to him, but she does now, and there's all-consuming fear between, like, each breath she takes, and he's just wondering if she'll take another one, and it's awful. But luckily, today, she looks a little less leeched, like there's some light in her cheeks. He obviously regrets taking her to the war games, which was punishment for his crimes, and for taking Liam, too. He ordered him to keep her safe, and that's what killed him. So his death is on Xaden, and we already know that Violet's like, Liam's death is on me! So, like, we've got a lot of guilt coming up in the next book.
That's the problem, too, is that they're both gonna take responsibility for the kid's death, and, like...
He's an adult. He made his choice. He even said, like... He wanted to do the right thing. Like, you can't...
But also, that foreshadowing, though, we couldn't say it before about how he says he hoped his death would be just as honorable. Like,
yeah. And, like, obviously she's going to become a huge part of this and, like, do something somehow to save the day. And, like, his death won't have been in vain type thing. Like, and also she's the hero of the story, so obviously. But yeah. So Tairn growls at Xaden and says, like, he should have told her about the venom, and now she's suffering. And he knows he should have done a lot of things differently. And he thinks he should have held on to her after the first kiss and not fought his feelings for her. And he should have let her all the way in then. Which, like, they would have had so much time.
What was their first kiss? Was it the night of the the night that she felt Tairn and Scaly?
Horny? Yeah. It wasn't hers? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure. He thinks then, like, she can't die because he knows he won't survive it. Even if their dragons do survive it, like, he won't survive her death. like, it's emotional. It's not even, like, a physical won't survive it emotionally.
But, like, can I just say, I love that, like, this chapter is essentially just all the feels.
Yes, so much. And then, like, he kind of names, literally in his head, every moment that I want to be in his point of view. So he thinks back to the shock of attraction on the turret, her giving a stranger her boot, throwing daggers at his head, throwing her on the mat and showing her how to kill him, how she got up the gauntlet, threshing, and obviously saving Anderna, Orin trying to kill her, mastering her shields, his jealousy when she kissed Eidos, and then, like, throwing daggers at Barlow. So, like, every moment before they had ever kissed, he's like, I was falling so fucking hard for her. And you're like, I love Winnegar.
I know. This,
so much.
The whole, like, he loves her, but she doesn't know it. I love it. A part of you wants to be like, too. Girl, wake up. But at the same time, you're like, oh. Yeah.
It's so cute. But he kind of thinks he knew he was getting too close, but he fell before they even kissed, but he couldn't tell her without being completely honest with her. And that's why he was holding back from a relationship, which, like, we get. And, like, all he can think about is the betrayal in her eyes when she found out that, like, what he was hiding.
And, like, he still hasn't told her he loves her.
No, and he even thinks about it. He's like, I can't tell her now because it'll just seem manipulative. And I'm like, you're so good. I'm so glad he's doing that.
Consent, manipulation, like, he is awoke. Yeah.
He's a woke king. She wakes up then and smiles at him, and he's like, oh shit, this must be a trick of the light. But he goes to the bed to check her side, and where her wound was, there's no black tendrils like there were before. And he tells her he was so afraid to lose her, but she says he isn't going to lose her. And he promises to make it up to her, and she looks confused. And at this moment, I was like, I'm about to throw this book across the fucking room. Like, if she forgets everything, I'm going to riot. But that's not what happened, thank God. Her eyes kind of glaze as she checks with her dragons, and Xaden says the poison in the dagger went to her brain, so she might not remember some things. But he says Anderna is fine, and then he thinks in his head that Anderna is a bit different. She's huge now, and she's lost her time-stopping gift. But he doesn't need to tell her that yet. Like, that's something she can deal with
I'm
later.
So excited to
I know.
Figure it out. And I'm really excited for her to, like, channel and get Andarna's gift.
I know. Do you think it will be, like, healing or something? I feel like it's going to be something on that side of things, because she was very much like, my gift is only good for killing, so I feel like she's going to get something.
Yeah, I agree.
To balance it out. All things in balance. That's
and
like
Andarna's such a sweet, like, good-natured, innocent sort of dragon. I feel like her signet is going to... I know it has nothing to do with the dragon, but still, like, I just feel like it's going to be...
It's still a combo. I feel like, No, I agree. I think, Violet gets out of bed then and looks at the landmarks outside, and she asks where they are, and not to lie this time. So she's either starting to remember, or her dragons told her what happened. And I guess, like, realistically, her dragons could have just replayed everything for her, and she could know through that. But he kind of knows that she knows where they are, and she says it looks like Aritia, but Aritia was burned to the ground after his father's rebellion, and he agrees, but he says it's in the process of being rebuilt. And she's like, I think I would have heard if it was being rebuilt. But he says they aren't hiding it. They're just not advertising
Smart man.
it. You're like, yeah, fair. She asks him to tell her one thing, and you're kind of like, is she going to be like, do you actually love me? But it's much, much worse. She asks if Liam is dead. And he can't find the words, but he gives her a new carving that Liam was making, and it's of Andarna. And she says that it's her fault, but he says it's his, and he should have told her. Yeah, he should have told her, period. Everything, obviously. Yeah. That's what he's saying. And he tells her, like, Liam was also laid to rest yesterday, but he stayed here with her. So they both missed his funeral, which is unfortunate, because that is heartbreaking. She then tells him to leave so she can get dressed, and then he's like, you're kicking me out of my own room. And it's like, it's kind of a cute-ish moment, but like she's also mad. But I just love the, like, it's his room, and he had her in his room.
I know, I love it too.
But she says, now, Ryerson. And in his head, like, it cuts, because she has never called him anything other than Xaden. Like, even when she should have been calling him Ryerson, she didn't. And it's like, he thinks it's because she wanted to keep a line between him and his father, because she blamed his father for her brother's death. And now that she's calling him Ryerson, like, he's sad. But he does leave, obviously, because consent and caring about someone's wishes. But Garrick and Bodhi are outside, and they're happy she's awake, but they say she'll need to decide if she wants to keep the secret. And Garrick says he thinks that she will, and they'll have to teach her how to shield against Atos, which is like, good. Maybe we should have done that in the beginning. None of this would have happened.
But, like, what I don't understand here is they're going to have to teach her how to shield against Atos, but, like, are they not all kicked out of school? Like, what has happened with the war games? Like,
I have no idea. We know nothing.
I know we know nothing, but, like, this is what I mean. Like, do they honestly think they can just show up back at school and be like, hey, we got lost? Like, and then everyone be like, oh, of course you did. Okay. Welcome. You know what I mean? It's just... I
have no idea. I 100% know what you mean. I don't know how she's going to write this. And we don't get any idea in this book. I don't know. Yeah, it's wild. But Xaden asks them if they've heard anything about the Flyers, and they say only Serena, who I guess is the one that talks to them the most, of the Griffin Flyers, and her sister lived, so 2 out of the 7 lived. Also, Garrick's dragon found a small iron box under the clock tower that they're trying to figure out, which is interesting, because that's, like, clearly
that's
seems
what they
like
were after.
That's what they were after, and that's what Taryn could feel. So that's going to be important, but we don't know anything about it. Xaden ends up going to Garrick's room to clean himself up, because he also hasn't cleaned himself up. And an hour later, he's standing outside the door again, and Violet opens the door, and Bodhi says it's good to see her, and he'll grab the backup plan, and he says good luck. So Xaden goes inside to talk to her. And he says before they can go into anything, is she willing to fight? Like, is she on their side? Is she going to fight the Venin? And she says she's in. And he goes to reach for her, but she says not happening. Just because she'll fight, and believes, obviously, she was literally fighting against them, so I don't know how she could not believe. Doesn't mean she'll trust him with her heart again. Which makes me sad. And she says it's not even that he kept it from her, but how easy it was for him. And I think that that's just like, you can't say it was easy for him. It was not easy for him. And he can see that she still loves him, but like it's behind walls now. And he loves her, but like we said, he doesn't want to say it. But he leans in and says it took him a long time to trust her and fall for her. And like someone's knocking on the door, but he ignores it. And he says he'll spend every day of his life earning her trust back. And he says he forgot what it was like to be loved. And I think he thinks his dad died, and his mom, he thinks, not going there. So, like...
It's General Sorrendale.
Oh. No, that would be awful. I guess maybe it wouldn't be so bad if she's not.
This is what I mean. So, he's going to be Sorrendale's, like unwanted, illegitimate child. And she is going to be her father's illegitimate child, so they're not going to be related at all.
Okay. I don't think we're doing a City of Bones situation here. I think his mother might be a Venom. Sure.
Might make more sense.
Yeah. But, you know, maybe he is the Sorrendale and she is whatever. I don't know. But he basically says, like, she gave him her heart.
I love it.
I know. And then she says she's still hoping the missive could have been a part of the war games.
Naive. But then, Violet, naive.
Yeah. Well, I don't think she's just, like, hope, like, you know, you wish. But somebody just says, not a chance, little sister. And then Xaden says she wasn't mended, but she was healed by Brennan. And he opens his arms and says, welcome to the revolution,
dun,
Violet.
Dun.
That's the end of the book. Do you think he
brother
gave her a
is
hug
alive?
Do you think he was like, welcome to the revolution, as in, like, look at this, it's the revolution? Or do you think he was like, welcome to the revolution, come give me a hug, because I actually love you?
I hope it was a hug, because he actually loves her.
I do too, because she has so little love now that their father is dead. Ah, this book.
So yeah, so her dead brother is not dead but alive. Therefore, Fenn Ryerson did not kill her brother like it was told to her all those years ago. So,
and that's the reason she hated Xaden was because of that. So like that takes
he kept that from her.
The whole,
because like especially remember when he was like, your mom killed my dad, and she was like, well, your dad killed my brother. Like he had to take that and be like, he didn't though.
I know, but do you think this is something that like they really don't want people to know? Because he's a healer, he's on their side now, so like they're like, yes, everyone needs to think he's dead. Maybe. And like if she found out, like, but yeah, it would have been so easy to be like, hey, no, he's alive, he's on our side now.
Yeah, I don't know,
but yeah, that's the book. I loved it. Like we've kind of said a few times, like it's not like super groundbreaking. It's not brand new fantasy. It's just good. But it's the shit that I want. It's like
and it's well written.
I like it.
It's not repetitive. So it's not like it's very easy to read and it's easy to get sucked in.
Yeah, and it's like it's fast paced. And so, like, that's why I don't understand how there's 5 books.
So much happened.
This was a full year, basically, which is my thing with books. And I'm like,
you love it.
Every book is a year. But this book actually was, like, her full first year. War Games is, like, at the end of the first year. So, like, it just seems wild that there's 4 more books, but obviously something is going to open up in the next book that is going to blow my tiny little brain apart, and I'm going to be like, oh, the world is so much bigger. And we're going to love it. Oh, of course.
But also, like, I wonder, this is a weird wonder. I wonder if, like, so they did a whole year of school. Do they get any time off, or are they just going to go right back into year 2?
It kind of feels right like they just... Yeah. Because, like, I think they get their letter privilege, but then they just go right back. And, like, the war games end, pick new people.
That's what I assume. Too, which is weird.
Yeah. Did you have any predictions that you want to get off your chest other than what we talked about?
I don't know. I really, 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 really do not want Dain to become interesting.
Yeah. I don't think it's
And, like,
possible.
I really don't want her to, like, interact with him and, like, him do something for her and her realize, oh, wow, or, like, he does have feelings for me, or, like, wow, he does actually care for me, or for him to even be, like, I don't know, like, for her to realize, oh, he was fighting the system from the inside the whole time. Like, I don't want him to be redeeming it all, because I don't want her to, like, get attracted to him at all.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be very much end of Akamath, beginning of Akawar, where, like, she's going to have to go back and she's going to have to pretend that everything is fine, that nothing really happened. So I really think it's going to be, like, one of those situations, which I kind of love, because he's going to be all like, look at my sweetness, and, like, kind of like we were in the first book, where we were like, that's not sweet, he's a piece of shit. But she's going to be the one being like, that's not sweet, you're a piece of shit. But she's going to have to be like, oh, thank you. Blah, 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 blah. Like, she's going to have to put up with it, which I hate. But yeah, there's just so much that's going to happen in the next book, because, like, obviously Xaden is probably going to get sent to the front lines. If they go back. I don't understand how they're going to get back there, but they're going to.
I don't know what their excuse is going to be.
Yeah. But, like, there is a little snippet of book 2. I'm sure you can just Google it. But Violet is back at the school. So
she manages it.
That's something. Yeah. But anyway, we'll get the next book soon. And if it's as amazing as this one, we'll probably do it soon in a month. One of the months.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we're going to wrap it up for this week and this book. So if you want to get in touch with us and share your thoughts on anything you heard in our episode, or if you have any book suggestions for us, please reach out to us by email at coffeeandcoread@gmail.com, or you can check us out on Instagram or Facebook at coffeeandcoread, and TikTok, we are coffee.coread.
So next week we're going to be doing a new book. So it's actually the second book of a series where we've already done the first one, but it's A Touch of Ruin by Scarlett St. Clair. So that is the Hades and Persephone series. The first book was A Touch of Darkness. We're going to read chapters 1 to 6, so make sure to follow along. And if you're enjoying our chats, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you get our content. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you on the next page.